Tree_84 secured first place. Tree_84 just cheered 100 bits.
Hi everyone, mistershins here. Tonight, we're playing Burdock. It's not the first time that we play this game, it's the second. But this game has been updated with a whole voice cast. And tonight, after we complete the game, we're going to talk to them. We're going to talk to members of the voice cast and the developers, and it's going to be a great time. And hello, Tree! Tree, thank you for the very generous gift of bits. Thank you everybody for joining me tonight. Excited to do this. Excited to play this. Just a heads up for people who are usually here. Dr. Knack, thank you for the lurk. Most of the redeems are turned off. So no redeems tonight as we get through the Burdock story and talk to the developers. But redeems will be back tomorrow when we play Baldur's Gate 3. Tree, so nice to see you. I hope you are feeling better. Hope everything is well. Loki, hello! No, my favorite redeem. I'm so sorry, Loki. But we're gonna play Burdock. Just a little history for this visual novel. This was developed by a team that Mistershins put together. Mistershins wrote and directed. Boy, what did Mistershins do on all this? She was direction, she did sound design, she did backgrounds, and she did writing. There was also character and art design by the one and only Remnantation. The soundtrack is by John Aline. Coding by Windchimes, and logo and UI design by ingthing. And then we have a whole cast of actors who have been added, and a voice director who took part here. Drakner Magnotti, hello. Thank you for being here. Bright side is I'll have saved up even more coins for them in the future. that is looking on the bright side, the silver lining, Loki. So I'm looking forward to talking to people after this, but let's go ahead and dive in, shall we? This was made for Spooktober Jam 2023, and let's give it a shot. Even more thermostat touching. Tree says, Mistershins! Okay, here we go. So I just said here we go, but if you guys notice any audio issues, balancing the audio for this kind of stream is a little tricky for me. So if you can't hear the music, or you can't hear the voice actors, you can't hear me, or one is too loud, please chime in and let me know. Don't be shy. Okay, here we go. Begin. It's not Evelyn. Stop whispering at me. I'm Mistershins, of course. Audio's a little low. Okay, I will adjust that. Is that better, Mistershins? Oh, also, welcome, Mistershins. This is nothing like a fairy tale. The wedding is my own, but filled with a great, yawning emptiness. The church altar stands unadorned, no flowers, no friends in the aisles. No sisters either. No weeping Agatha or smiling Maud. No sour-faced Mags, even, shrew that she is. Emptiest of all are the pretty vows I exchange with the stranger standing beside me, because the true contract between us has nothing to do with expressions of love. Though both impoverished, the stranger has a name in the world, and my own name is of so little consequence as to appear a mere X in the parish register. I have never been able to write. Through this bloodless marriage, my settlement portion secures for my sisters a future free from the destitution of our past. The stranger leveraged that honorable name to find them well-paid positions in respectable houses. In exchange, my own future is now entirely bound to the maintenance of the stranger's pride. For the poverty of a great name is far different than that known by the poor and nameless. I have always put my hand to whatever work might pay for our next meal, but I now understand that certain work is beneath those of greater standing. Of course, penury is also beneath those with a name. What was the stranger to do, unable to sully their hands with work, but with pockets too empty to pay for a servant's wages? Were it up to me, I should have sold the remote property where we will be settling, and instead bought a small cottage with room for a garden and perhaps some chickens. But the stranger berated me when I suggested this, explaining that a great name must have a great house to be of worth, even if the upkeep is damnably inconvenient and expensive. Tree says, Wittershins writes, this game is beautiful. But now, the stranger must only see me fed and clothed, and while I am bound to them by marriage, my role will be that of a permanent servant. My past will never again be spoken of, and my relationship to my sisters is forever severed, so as not to bring shame upon the name now stamped upon me like a brand. I admit, I understand little of the stranger's reasoning, but it seems clear enough that we each have more wants than wisdom. I do. I have spent my life believing I had nothing. But as I repeat the words of the priest, I wonder now if that was true, or if I am now giving up my life for nothing but a name. I thought I entered into this arrangement without illusions. I did not think my duties would involve driving, however. I can count on one hand the number of times I've ridden in a carriage and still have fingers left to spare. If ever I did suspect that one day it would be my lot, though, I suppose it was likeliest the equipage would resemble this, run down, the very sorriest of all possible steeds sauntering forth in the traces with neither enthusiasm nor speed, nor any more sense of the roadway than I in the trembling reins myself. Oh, than I hold in the trembling reins myself. The fog which this morning crowned the tops of the trees like a wedding veil now slinks between their trunks like an animal. Hello, Werg. Welcome, sir. Shin the Legend, thank you for shouting people out. Appreciate you. The horse and I share a distrust of that skulking mist, which now and then stretches out to obscure the road, tangling in the wheels, pressing at the sides of the open carriage, slicking the seat with dew. Between the mist and the shaded twilight of the mountain forest, it is impossible to gauge how far we've traveled. There are no markers, only more pitted road unspooling before us, more trees crowding to either side of us. Except for when they vanish altogether, and in their place the edge of a precipice can be glimpsed between the ribbons of swirling fog. Chronically bouncing bun-buns, you are wonderful. Hello. My hands are numb with cold. I can taste a frost waiting, suspended in the air, old and familiar nemesis that it is. Unsure exactly how to properly urge the horse on, I click my tongue at it, gently shaking the reins as I might a damp sheet laid out to dry. It has no perceivable impact on our pace, and I tuck my elbows closer in, trying to conserve what little warmth I have left. The stranger I married remains oblivious to my discomfort, bundled snugly in moth-eaten woolen blankets, nodding off without concern for the impending bad weather, only pleased that the servant who bears their name and costs no wages is properly employed at the reins. Oh, rewards are gone, Buns, because we're doing a visual novel tonight. They will be back tomorrow. Do not share their confidence. Ah. Perhaps this entire matter was ill-advised after all. The cold is gone. Everything is warm. Dimly, I become aware of a terrible weight upon my back, pressing me deep into the moss and bracken of the forest floor, crushing the air from my lungs. An attempt to rise fails. My legs have no feeling, and only one arm responds to my command to push back against the weight. Abandoning the effort as futile, I instead strike out, gripping the earth in one hand, dragging myself over knobbled roots and sharp sticks, damp leaves clinging to my face and arm. I am outpaced by snails, but in motion nevertheless. Eventually, air finds its way into my chest again, rattling noisily in my throat as I finally pull myself clear of the upturned carriage. With a final push, I roll and put my back to a rotting stump, soft with moss, and survey the wreckage. The horse is nowhere to be found, which comes as a relief. It must have broken free as the traces snapped, I surmise hazily. I wish it well in finishing the journey for us. An appendage juts out from beneath the wreck. A cursory glance assures me that it is not mine. The stranger I married was less fortunate than the horse, it would seem. This sunken forest glade is journey's end for us both, then. A truth even I can read, written out in the trailing, garish red of blood I have traced along the green and brown of the earth, in the limbs which do not answer my calling, and the air which even now I struggle to find in sufficient supply. With nothing to do but wait to die, I blink, and time passes.
You taste like sacrifice.
The voice is a whisper on the wind, the sigh of trees and water, something false and imagined, a trick of the mind. Still I bestir myself and prime open my eyes once more. Against the wash of crimson, I register a green more verdant than any I have previously known, a curiously dark gaze fixed on me with interest. Sacrifice? The word wrenches from my throat with violence, but emerges almost without sound. The odd figure of green nods, tracing my limp arm with one sharp-tipped finger. It comes away stained with my blood, which they then sample with all the fastidiousness and relish of a gourmand at a banquet.
Yes, that faint sweetness. Sacrifice. The bitterness of regret, a slight tang of selfishness. But sacrifice. Willing sacrifice. It has been some time since I last tasted it.
The fathomless gaze returns to my face, lips now streaked with crimson.
It is a concept foreign to my kind, you see. Quite rare in yours.
Their chin jerks in the direction of the limp hand extending from beneath the crushed carriage.
That one, for example, is sour with indolence. Dead also, which adds little to the flavor. But you...
My vision is clouding, and I blink rapidly, trying to refocus on the form before me. Dying mid-conversation feels innately rude, and I have no desire to offend this creature, whatever they may be. Pardon me, but what are you? The green head tips to the side like an inquisitive bird, brow furrowing in a ripple of lichen. Are you... Okay, I have played this game before, so if anybody in chat would like to select, we have a fairy, a human, a friend, a tree, or death. What do we think? A tree, says Tree. Tree? I don't know. Death? We've got 2 votes for death. Oh! Shin the Legend changed his vote. Everybody's going tree. We're going to do tree. Novum Chase, hello. A fairy, of course. 3 tree. We're going to go with tree. Tree. We're doing tree. A tree? They rock back on their heels, letting out a clattering laugh that rattles in the nearest branches, echoing up to the sky.
I would have thought myself a better conversationalist in your tongue. But if you would have it so, a tree I shall be.
Well done, everyone. He's a tree. There's now a tree in chat and a tree in the game. Wonderful. The dark eyes turn speculative.
Do you fear me?
I catch my head as my chin dips to my chest, trying to straighten myself, and failing. Not especially. I know that I'm dying. It's nice to have company. I thought I would be alone. The great tree tips forward, hands clasped between their knees, their face now but a handbreadth from my own.
Nothing dies alone.
Thomas Wagner, hello. Thank you for being here, sir.
Death is always with the dying, and even if she were not, there are ever millions who die in the same moment. Flowers, insects, the crawling creatures, the winged and feathered, the leviathans beneath the sea. And yes, you humans as well. No one and nothing dies alone, but always in a glorious, collective chorus, a crescendo of life giving way to precious, impossible, and shared silence.
I think I just died during this speech. Thomas, I hope you are well too. Thank you. So the voices have been added. Yes, Tree. So before this was an unvoiced game, and now it is voiced. Hey, Novum Chase is in this game somewhere. We will find him soon. A faint sigh flutters across my lips, only a fraction of the air returning to me after. That's nice. Thank you. The great tree is now hovering over me, my limp arm lifted close to their face as they breathe in the scent of my blood with apparent relish.
I could keep you for myself. I can drive death away. Or do you prefer to die?
No, I want to live. The answer is torn from me in a rasping croak, but it is immediate and simple, catching even me off guard. Do I have to live for now? Only myself, I suppose. Is that truly enough? I weigh the question, but though I cannot find it in me to place any external value on my life, still, I want to live, and I do not wish to die. The great tree settles on their knees over me, now idly playing with my hair.
There will be a cost. I meant it when I said sacrifice and selflessness are foreign to my kind.
I don't have anything to give. The black eyes fasten on me, arrested. At this near distance, I can see they are flecked with tiny golden lights, almost like stars.
I believe you do.
My head lolls back against the stump as I return their gaze, uncertain.
Your name. Give me your name, and I will bargain with death for you.
They now appear no more than a looming green silhouette, edges soft and indistinct. Okay, do we give our name? give a stranger's name, give a false name, remain silent, or just say no? What do we think? Oh, happy birthday, Dr. Knack. Give name, says Tree. All right. We shall give the name. This guy seems like a honey locust tree, says Werg. All right, we're gonna do what Tree said and give the name. My name is Mr. Shins. The blur of the great tree's face splits in a wide smile.
My little sacrifice. I shall spare you a fraction of my power until the mists clear.
One sharp finger begins to trace some form of sigil across my brow, and I flinch as it burns on contact. The mists swirl more densely between us, wrapping around me in a cloak of frigid damp and wind. A plume cuts through my throat, and I gasp, taking the cold air in with desperate swallows. For a moment, all I can do is recollect how one is meant to breathe, a matter even newborn babes manage without instruction, and yet I find it was readily forgotten. The great tree waits patiently, observing my labored heaving and panting impassively. Tree says, I feel like last time you did fake name and it didn't like it. I think you're right, Tree. Once I am more sure of my voice, I cough once, trying to meet them gaze for gaze. Do I get to know your name in return? My teeth are chattering, but my chest now rises and falls as steadily as it used to. The green face becomes sharper, clearer in my vision, eyes crinkling at the corners as if in response to a private joke.
Perhaps, if you can earn it. But first you must survive.
They bite down hard on the pad of one iridescent thumb, concluding their sigil on my brow with a striped seal of amber blood, like the sap of a tree. At once the cold is shaken from my limbs, warmth and feeling returning to fingers and toes with tingling awareness, like water sparking as it hits hot oil in a pan. Survive? I thought... I revolve the great tree's words in my head, clarity returning to my thoughts as well as my vision. They continued to gaze down at me, inscrutable. You said, until the mists clear. They smile as if pleased by a small child who has successfully executed the very simplest of tasks.
I did. Your precious name has bought you time and opportunity to purchase life beyond that. However, you must first prove yourself worthy of being at the very least my attendant. Should you excel, well, then perhaps I shall tell you my name in turn, and confer with it a great share of my power.
The enigmatic gaze narrows.
But should you fail, your life will dissipate with the clearing of the fog.
Oh, jeez. How can I prove myself, then? What qualities would make me worthy? I am not of noble birth. I have few talents. The great tree rises to their feet in an impossibly fluid motion, waving a hand dismissively.
Standards whereby you mortals judge yourselves are of very little matter here, and do not interest me in the slightest. Whatever you have been before, whatever you shall yet become, your present concern is the same. You must complete 3 tasks. The first...
They raise a single sharp finger and indicate the tree line in an eloquent sweeping motion.
The first, you must cross this wood. The second...
They withdraw the arm and playfully twine their fingers in a furling strand of mist.
For the second, you must cross the air. Last...
The great tree cups both hands before their mouth, blowing the fog away in a swirling wave.
For the last, you must cross the water. Only then you shall find the gates to my realm.
Tree says, oh no, it's a test, be careful. Feeling enough has returned to my legs now that I risk shifting to my feet. Finding them steady beneath me, I rise, looking up the great tree. Cross the wood, cross the air, and cross water. Seems simple enough. I chuckle at this, and I feel the ground tremble slightly underfoot with the sound.
Does it? Perhaps it is. Still, since you gave me your name, I shall give you a final bit of assistance.
As if conjured from the air itself, a knot of wood rises in their palm as if grown there, which they then break off and extend to me. Gingerly, I take it in hand and find that while I thought it would, it is weighty, reflecting the dim light of the glade with the clarity of gold. Stop it with the tree puns in chat, you guys. This is enough. Wintershins, behave. A stone I do not know a name for. You're having? Okay. A stone I do not know a name for shimmers at the center, warm as the sun, and beside it another gem glistens cold as starlight. He finally got us. As I examine the ring in astonishment, I notice a third, final jewel, this one more subtle than the first two, and black as a moonless night.
It is a favorite trinket of mine. If you should find yourself unable to complete any of the tasks on your own, turn it thrice upon your finger, and help shall come. Be warned, however, little sacrifice.
Abruptly closing the distance between us, they take my chin in hand, tilting my face gently upwards. The strange voice pitches low, like the rumbling of a distant storm.
All things have a cost. You'll want to be wary of seeking easier pathways without knowing the toll they shall exact in the end.
With this, they release me, stepping away. Their silhouette once more begins to blur and shift, and though I scrub at my eyes with the back of a hand, they appear no clearer for it.
I wish you the luck of the trees which do not fall to fire, of rabbits which escape the snare, and of birds which survive the lightning. My little sacrifice. Perhaps then we shall meet again at the gates of my kingdom.
With a final flourish of grey mist, the brilliant green of their form is swallowed up by the glade as if it never was anything else, and I am alone. Shiver me timbers. Work. The first task, cross the wood. The great tree gone, and my death postponed for the time being, I sink into the luxury of a moment's reflection. And we have about less than 3 minutes before our first ad break. So I'm going to go ahead and take it now. Thanks everybody for joining me. Sorry to anybody that's behind the commercial wall. We're going to take a quick break and I will see you in 3. All right, here we go. The great tree gone and my death postponed for the time being. I sink into the luxury of a moment's reflection. It doesn't take much to immediately find myself questioning how real this situation can possibly be. Yet just behind me lies a pile of broken timber that not so very long ago was a carriage, and beneath it the remains of a stranger who not so very long ago was my spouse. And resting in the palm of my hand, a bit of jewelry that resembles wood, 2 of the unfamiliar gems winking in the wan light, and the third absorbing it into shadow. Perhaps I am dead after all. Perhaps this is purgatory. All the same, though, I see no way forward without first fulfilling these assigned tasks. After the briefest hesitation, I tug off the plain wedding ring that was placed on my hand just this morning, replacing it with the great tree's token. The simple band weighs heavily in my hand, and reluctantly I draw nearer the only part of my dead spouse visible beneath the wreckage. Crouching beside it, I placed the wedding band in the hollow of their palm, my fingers inadvertently brushing against theirs, which already are gelid and stiff. I tried to suppress my shudder, set on showing them at least that much respect. You were never more than a stranger to me, but I am sorry you met your end this way. I wish you well on your journey. I rise, preparing to shift my thoughts to the first of my tasks, but instead find my vision suddenly clouded, the mist now dark as coal smoke.
Leaving so soon? How little your vows have meant.
I whirl, trying to face the voice, but it seems to come from the very air. Still, I recognize it. I'm sorry,
You know, in some errands, the spouse was buried alongside their fallen other half. A gesture of proper respect.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean for you to die. I'm sure if you still had life left after the accident, the great tree might then have...
The great tree? Their kind only seek to slake their own selfish desires, to sup upon that which humans have, and they will forever lack. You have an inferior kind of manner to you.
How dare
A
you?
sense of subservience. It's why I chose you for my partner. You pose no threat. You give up what you have so very, very easily.
The cloying smoke and fog sigh like a drafty chimney.
But now I find those traits most inconvenient. My name is all that remains of me, and you are all that remain to bear it. If you insist on flaunting your inherent vulgarity by outliving me, I demand you at least return to civilization as my living monument, and see to it that I am not forgotten and left to rot here in this wood.
Work says I'm starting to not like this voice. The air stings my eyes, sticking in my chest in a viscous haze, which cough though I might, I could not seem to expel. How would you have me do that? I live only because of the intervention of the great tree. If I disobey their command...
Your death in my service would be preferable to your survival in theirs. But I do have a solution to propose.
Opslin Josie, hello. From my perspective, it's about the perfect spouse who could do no wrong being killed by their new spouse who doesn't know how to drive a carriage. Thank you for joining us, Josie. You guys, Josie is one of the actors in the game here. Tree says, I don't think we should anger the tree. It gave us luck and we didn't die, so I'm worried. I turn, prepared to stride away from the noxious fumes, but the dead hand suddenly turns, gripping my ankle and causing me to fall, the circle of my ring pressing a round imprint in my skin.
I am not yet finished speaking, my love. You would do well to listen. If nothing else, you owe me that. As the one who authored my demise.
It was an accident. I never claimed I could drive. It was you who...
Silence. What I have to say is to your own benefit. Or do you prefer to live in the service of that creature?
I am left without a reply to this, beyond choking still on the polluted fog.
Good. You will find that the remaining broken traces are of iron chain. The one who would be your master cannot stand against cold iron. What you must do, then, is to wrap some fragment of the broken traces at your ankles and wrists, and conceal it beneath your clothes. Then, once you have completed your tasks, and stand at the gateway to their realm, they shall grant you your life in full, but find they are unable to drag you away with them.
Welcome, Shift. I enjoyed your stream earlier. Thank you for being here. I struggle to kick my leg free, but the hand is like a manacle, clammy and unyielding. How do you know so much about the great tree? The voice drops to a growl.
I know because I now know death, and I am helping you, ingrate that you are. The great tree is bound by their bargain with you, whether you know it or not. Complete your tasks and they will ensure you shall live. It is up to you to outsmart them by this measure, and then make your way back to civilization.
As if doused by water, the darkness and discomfort abruptly wash away on a chill wind, and my ankle is freed, the hand going limp once more.
I cannot stay longer. As I am dead, I cannot force your hand. But I should hope that once
So
you
bitter.
survive and find yourself in possession of my estate, you will at least send someone to collect my remains and see to it I receive a proper burial. Remember my words, though, and remember that you are all that is left of my name. You owe me.
With that, they are truly gone. The hand lies flaccid against the earth, the ring I left dull with soil and almost hidden beneath one fish-belly pale arm. Do I wrap myself in the iron chain or disregard the ghost suggestion? What do people think? But are they, says Wittershins. That's scary, says Tree. Wrap ourselves in the chains or disregard the ghost suggestion? Tree says iron chains. Josie says follow the very incredible and charismatic ghost. Obviously. Josie, which part did you play? Okay, we have 2 votes for the chains. Obviously, we're doing the chains. Wrap myself in the iron chain. Wisest choice, says Wittershins, who cannot be trusted. I really do not want to call anyone my master. Searching the wreckage, it is not difficult to turn up the broken chain. Using the remains of the axle, I break it up into pieces smaller still, linking and knotting them at my ankles and wrists, then tugging the tattered fabric of my wedding attire over them once more. Then, setting the unpleasant encounter aside, I redirect my thoughts to the task at hand. A quick scan shows the tree line to be unnaturally dense and wholly impassable. Yet, crossing through a wood seems simple enough. One only needs... what? An axe? A pathway? A compass? Axe, pathway, or compass? Compass, says Tree. 1 vote for compass? Let's do it. I snicker quietly to myself. Oh, did I back up? A compass. I snicker quietly to myself. Sure, a compass. Work says pathways are always nice. If I could read a compass, I might then have been a sailor. Or an explorer in uncharted lands. I might have been and done any number of great things. Perhaps I wouldn't have wrecked the carriage even. My suppressed laughter rises in volume, not entirely without a touch of hysteria, even in my own ears. If I could read a compass, that is. Unable to come up with a better course, I begin walking, ever watchful for some break in the wood. Compass equals good carriage driving. There, a herd of grazing deer. I jog forward and the herd raise their heads, looking in my direction with concern while poised for flight. A handful of bucks among the group lower their heads, antlers displayed threateningly. I stop, instinctively holding my hands up in surrender. No, I didn't mean any harm. I just want to see where you all go.
And where should we go, human?
My head jerks in the direction of the low melodic voice. And to my surprise, I see a doe standing before me regally, half again as tall as any of the bucks. Sapphire Eris, thank you for stopping in and saying hi. I hope you game well.
Stand down, you lot. I will handle this.
Before my wondering gaze, the doe grows taller still, hindquarters shortening and limbs reshaping into a more human form. Her face becomes rounded and beautiful, even as her eyes remain wary and contemptuous.
There. Now that I better resemble your kind, you shall answer me. What exactly are your intentions?
My mouth is dry, and I swallow several times, wetting my tongue to reply. I only want to cross through this wood, Miss Dear. One long velvet ear flickers, her dark eyes narrowing.
I am a majesty, not a miss. And no one crosses this wood, human.
I feel my face fall. I suppose that would be too easy, wouldn't it? I apologize, Your Majesty. Her expression softens infinitesimally in response.
I will forgive you for the impertinence, as you are but human. And it is true that there once was one charged with clearing the paths, but...
I look up eagerly, meeting her eyes, and she sighs wearily in response.
That one was a fool, however. He desired me. And when I denied him, he sought to entrap me.
I don't know, seems reasonable. No, I'm kidding. Okay, go on. Her gaze sharpens so rapidly I feel slice at the edges of my own perception before I can flinch away.
He set a snare for me. Me, the fool. But I will not be ensnared, however clever the trap. Would only serve to curse him.
A faint, frightening smile touches her lips, and I feel the air chill.
I broke free with ease. And when next he raised his axe, it slipped, and his own head was severed from his shoulders.
The tree says protect the dear lady at all costs. She gives a graceful shrug, her gaze now as tired as eternity.
Still, I will admit it is inconvenient for my herd to no longer have our pathways readily cleared.
So, he's dead? The forest dark eyes fix on my own.
How would you punish such a one? If it were you he sought to trap. Death is by far too quick and simple. He still lives yonder, where he ever has.
The magnetic gaze fastens on something in the distance, and following its direction, I spy a small hut, overgrown and dilapidated. Oh. It is all the answer I can manage, and it comes only with great effort. Still, I must cross this wood somehow. There must be some solution. I clear my throat, scraping together the remaining threads of my determination. I assume he cannot see to cut pathways any longer, being without a head? One brow rises.
You assume correctly, human. He can hardly raise himself, much less an axe.
Daniela says, dang, I like her. Can I have her hair? Would you... Where is his head now? The other brow follows the first, but her eyes glint with amusement rather than malice.
Rotted away these 100 years since.
Before I can react, she raises a finger to stop my words.
That is not to say a replacement cannot be found if one were resourceful enough. I could be persuaded to breathe life into some other form.
I feel a swell of encouragement, but quickly tamp it down, considering all she has said closely. The great tree said that everything has a cost. What price would you exact for this aid, then? She smiles at this, glorious and warm as a picnic on a summer day.
You are well instructed. With the long passage of time, however, my anger has cooled. And as this would benefit my herd, the cost is but minor. Answer me 3 riddles to prove yourself not to be a fool, and I shall tell you where he might find a new head.
I blink rapidly. Riddles to prove I'm not a fool. Her laughter rings clear as birdsong.
Ah, indeed. I will not suffer fools in my wood. Oh, you needn't answer all 3 correctly if you are not so wise. But you must achieve at least 1 right answer to prove you are no fool either.
I force myself to return her smile, attempting to show I am ready for such a challenge, though my hands tremble with anxiety lest I fail. I accept then. What is the first riddle? Will you answer on your own, or do you wish for multiple choice options? Type my response, multiple choice. Try to type first, then multiple choice if I fail. Go. Yeah, Wittershin said we should save here. So we're going to do a quick save. And Tree says, the last one. So try to type first, then multiple choice if I fail. Her face settling once more to regal seriousness, she intones with the meter of a poet.
What is it that a child might hold in one hand, which once both are full grown, much taller shall stand?
What is it a child might hold in one hand, which once both are full grown, much taller shall stand? The answer is... What do we think? Josie says, life pro tip, at least 40% of any given random riddle is answered by time. Just a fun statistics thing. That is really interesting. Is that true? Wow. That tracks, but not here, says Wittershins. Okay. Does anybody want to give a guess? Dr. Knack says a seed. Of some sort. Cobalt, hello. A cool stick that looks like a sword. A duck! How do you know so much about... Never mind. Oh, need a king, you gotta know these things. Let's go with... Do we want to go with a duck? A cool stick? Dr. Knack answered first, and I like Dr. Nance. Tree says yes. What kind of seed? A tree, like a carrot seed? Burn the witch, burn her! No, Herc, no. A tree seed. We'll say a tree seed. I think that's a great guess, Dr. Knack. Let's see if Gollum eats us. The answer is a tree seed. And oh, okay, and then we got multiple choice. Acorn, I'm very tired right now. Just technically, acorn toy or friend, I think we're going with acorn. Yes, acorn! Acorn, says Werg. An acorn. I said tree seed, that's what I meant, dear woman. Jesus. An acorn is a tree seed, that's what yes, exactly. Josie?
Quite good.
Quite good, even though you don't know words. Good job, Dr. Knack.
Now for the next. You may give it. I may take it. You might keep it, or else break it. Whatever its value, it carries this fee. Only as good as you make it, you be.
The answer is... Any guesses? A cool stick that looks like a sword, says Cobalt. Silence, says Josie. A promise, says Shift. Time, says Wittershins. Wittershins, do you get to guess? You wrote the script. I don't think you get to guess. Shift, that is a great answer. Let's say a promise. Oh, why is it not? Oh, it's going to quick save. A promise? The answer is a promise. Very small rocks. Oh, okay. Did you say acorn again, Dr. Naki? It's not going to be acorn twice in a row. Discrimination, yes. Okay, here we go.
Wonderful. One last. Some are born with noble ones, some with none at all. Some outlive their bearers, others with them fall. It can be used to summon, although it is no spell. And when in company with Fae, you'll want to guard yours well.
A ring wraith from Lord of the Rings, Josie. It can't be acorn again? I mean, it could be, but I don't think it is, Dr. Neck. A cool stick that looks like a sword. Wittershins. You stole that answer. It's not acorn, Dr. Neck. Guess something else. Shift, no! A horse. Some are born with noble ones, some with none at all. Okay, it fits. Some outlive their bearers. Others with them fall. Can be used to summon? Melissa, hello. Time. I think Melissa might be onto something. An umbrella! A duck! An African swallow. Thank you for being specific about what kind of swallow, Josie. That's important. So we need a horse so we can get Wittershin's kingdom. Voice actor. A voice actor can be used to summon? I guess it could. They could. All right, let's go with Melissa's answer. Time. The answer is time. I don't think it's right, but we'll see. If only there was a name we could give the acorn. Word, they said African. No, says Melissa. Oh, did I mess up? I thought you said time. It's too late now. Well, we get a multiple choice option. Pete the acorn. The answer is Pete the acorn. It was a joke, says Melissa. Well, that's what you get, Melissa, for joking around. Your name, your dreams, your will. Does anybody want to venture another guess between these three options? Pete the acorn is not an option. Shift. Poor Shift. Pete the acorn was robbed. Yeah, poor Pete the acorn. We're gonna have to get some retribution. Your dream, says Tree. Dreams. Dr. Knack says name. Which one? Dreams or name? We've got two votes for dreams and one vote for name. Could be name because you can pass down your name, says Berg. Melissa says name. Dr. Knack says name. Okay, we're going with name. You use name to summon people, says Shift. Your name. She applauds me lightly, and the herd bow their heads as one. Well done, guys.
Unexpected.
It was close, but we did it.
Wise human. So few of your kind are not fools.
I, wise human. I see tree seeds. They are famous for stealing names. Horse, says Shift. Shift, it's too late. We did it already. I'm grateful for your help, Your Majesty. She gives me a thin smile.
I am glad to find I have not wasted my time upon you.
Tracy. Chase. They're also famous for stealing horses, are they?
Now, the answer to your question is a simple one. Anything at all which belongs to the Woodsman may serve for a head if it is fashioned with eyes, ears, mouth, and nose. But it must belong to him, and not to my wood, you understand. I will give him nothing that is my own.
The dear lady's confusing me, says Tree. Not just you, Tree. Okay, so anything can be his head? I understand, but what would count as his, then? She shrugs.
Anything he planted or fashioned for himself. More I shall not say. I am being quite generous enough, given my history with him, and lack of history with you.
She doesn't trust us. I bow my head, feeling deference will better suit me than insistence at this point. Thank you, Your Majesty.
We shall tarry here only a short time longer, until the clover is cropped close. Hurry and find the Woodsman a new head, if you wish to. I will not be here if you return too late, and you have too little magic to give life to a new head on your own.
Josie says, hear me out. Marry the Woodsman to the body of the spouse, then using that loophole, you can use the spouse's head for the Woodman. Is that an option? Novum Chase says, I don't know. The Woodsman sounds kind of cool. He does sound cool. Let's go find him. Fix it. Make her happy. Okay, Tree. We're gonna do it. Nodding, I bow my head once more, then turn towards the hut. The building is in even worse repair than I observed at a distance. Windows broken and thatched roof pitted and full of holes. Hello? Steeling myself, I knock at the door, then lift the latch, peering into the gloom with trepidation. Nothing moves. Turning back, I wander into the overgrown garden. Where could he be? Though it feels useless without the body it should adorn, I begin searching for a potential head. Okay, where do we want to search? In the overgrown garden? The rubbish pile? Or the edge of the woods? Any votes? Tree says, garden. All right, let's go to the garden. What should I pick up? Turnip or pumpkin? We might find a tree seed in the garden, says Josie. Pumpkin, says Werg. Yeah, Pete the Acorn has got to be around there somewhere. We're going to do the pumpkin. She said something he would have planted himself. Surely pumpkins aren't native to the wood. Oh. Accidentally went back. No. Pumpkin. I select the roundest, most robust specimen of the group. The Woodsman would have to be a pumpkin head to try and capture Her Majesty. She'll like this, I think. The stalk bites painfully into my palms with tiny thorns, but after bending it back and forth many times over, I'm eventually able to dislodge it. The ridged orange face stares back at me, begging for expression. You can still look around, amass some options. Do we want to return it to the garden or proceed with the pumpkin? I think Wittershins wants us to look around. Would I ever lie? Let's look around then. If Wittershins wants to look at, we'll go back to the garden. Look around, says Tree. Maybe we should look around, says Werg. Okay. So we could go to the rubbish pile or the edge of the woods. Let's go to the rubbish pile. Find more things. My eyes alight on a worn wooden bucket turned upside down over a large rubbish pile. Something the woodsman planted or fashioned for himself. Look for Pete, says Dr. Nag. We could always put googly eyes on the woodsman's hand. I examine the worn bucket closely from the hammered nails to the rough-hewn band holding it together. You will do nicely then. There is no one else here to make a bucket after all. I lift it off the pile of rubbish. Do we want to take the bucket or do we want to go look at the edge of the wood? I'm already lamenting the missed opportunities here, says Mistershins. That is a really well-crafted bucket, says Josie. Get the bucket and name him Phil. Do we get to name him? Take the bucket, says Tree. Okay, we're going to proceed with the bucket. Put the pumpkin in it and Pete. She said something he had planted or fashioned for himself. I examine the possibilities I have collected, carefully considering the dear woman's criteria. Pumpkin needs a name too then. Kobold says, little do you know that the bucket was made centuries ago and passed down through generations only to be stolen by a fiendish woodsman. No, it's an artisanal bucket. Handcrafted. Having the group laid out before me clarifies matters. I choose. The pumpkin or the bucket? What are we doing? The Great Bucket Heist of AD 432. Pumpkin or bucket? Tree is... Werg says, I really like buckets. Okay, Werg, we're going to do the bucket. I look over the derelict bucket once more. Josie says, for that bucket to last that long without rust, it needs to be a relic of some kind, not rot has taken it. It is a magic bucket. Dr. Neck says, I really like pumpkins. Dr. Neck, why didn't you say anything earlier? It's too late. It's not too late. Phil the magic bucket? Why is he Phil? Oh, it's clever. I doubt you hold water any longer, but you will do very nicely for... Ah! I drop the would-be head in starting horror as what I originally mistook for a mass of rubbish and rags mounded against the hut rises precipitously, taking the clear form of a man without any head at all. Hello, Mr. Woodsman. Bending at the waist, the figure sweeps outstretched arms back and forth along the earth, till eventually one questing hand brushes the edge of the bucket. Grasping it carefully, he lifts it up, straightening back to an overwhelming height, and offering it to me, wordlessly. Little surprised that he's speechless. He's also entirely without a head. Hashtag blame Pete, Tree. You want... The headless form makes no further movement, only continues to offer its head in silent supplication. Hesitantly, I accept it. Of course, you cannot hear. Then, shall I carve your ears first? Seating myself on a worn wooden stool, I attempt to cover up my discomfort with a barrage of friendly chatter as I use a rusted nail to first carve sickles into the vague form of ears, then rough holes for eyes, slits for a nose, and a sweeping upward-facing crescent to serve for a mouth. There we are. Let us hurry back to Her Majesty, lest the herd leave before us. I tuck the head under an elbow, turning back towards where the deer were last grazing. The shambling figure once more extends his arms outward in a sweeping motion. Before I can ascertain what he is about, one rough and heavily calloused hand is seized on my wrist and will not release it, though I instinctively try to shake myself free. Please, can you... The grip does not loosen, but the woodsman makes no further move, standing still as if carved from stone. As the first blush of panic passes, reason dawns on me for his unexpected seizure of my person. Right, I guess you can just follow my lead that way then. I'll try to take it slowly. I begin to pick my way back to the herd, and the woodsman trails a step or two behind, latched to my wrist like an overlarge, frightened child. I do my best to disregard him.
I did not say you should bring him along with you, human.
Whoops. I halt, doggedly prying at the clenched fingers on my wrist, and when this fails, bringing one foot down hard on the woodsman's instep. Finally, the manacle grip loosens enough for me to break away, and I quickly skip well out of reach. The minor tussle at least has the positive effect of returning the dear woman's expression to one of patient amusement, rather than the cold disdain we were met with. I'm very sorry, Your Majesty. I did not think that you would breathe life into the head without also being able to, attach it to... I gesture comprehensively at the fumbling form. She smiles coldly.
My power is such that I can easily manage to give new life to his head, even were the rest of him as far away as the world's end.
I turn over the bucket in my hands, suppressing a violent shudder as best I can. I do not mean to doubt your ability to do anything you please, Your Majesty. Rather, I doubt my own ability to carry a living head in my own hands and be charged with the act of reattaching it myself. The smile thaws, and she steps forward, taking the crudely carved form from
I
me.
spend so little time around you humans. I forget how strangely delicate your sensibilities can be. You wage your wars, you destroy one another and all manner of other creatures. You pilfer from the earth whatever your hands can touch, yet you tremble and sigh when confronted with anything the least bit extraordinary in your view, even when it poses no threat.
Dr. Knack, thank you for being here. I hope you sleep well. We will take care of Pete, the tree seed acorn, if we find him. You guys, can I get a shout out for NVG Nick Knack? Dr. Knack is having a birthday stream tomorrow, so you should add her and catch it. It'll be lots of fun. Thank you, Tree, for shouting out Dr. Knack. Work says I gotta go to bed too. Good night, Work. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Take care, Phil, too. He's my boy. We will. All right. Tree, thank you for shouting out Work.
It is almost charming.
She tips her head, as if trying to make sense of the workings within my own. Then, with the flick of an ear, dismisses humankind once more.
Close your eyes, then, if you do not wish to be frightened. For what I am to do will surely frighten a human to death, silly as you are. And your life hangs but tenuously even now.
She waits, watching me, and so I close my eyes as instructed. The magic forms first in a sense of gathering quiet and warmth, hypnotic and comforting. Then a building pressure that crackles in my ears and constrains me. Just as I begin to fear I will be crushed, the pressure breaks in a shattering, blinding burst of light, rushing cold and howling sound. The shift is so violent that even with my eyes squeezed shut and my hands clapped over my ears, I am driven forcibly to my knees and realize I am howling and sobbing together, screaming until my throat is left dry and raw. Terrific yearning for the initial quiet and warmth is a physical pain that lacerates each of my senses in turn, ricocheting through my body and tearing my mind to pieces. When I wake, I find myself slumped on the forest floor once again. The bucket is great. Oh, I haven't seen the bucket in a while. Opening my eyes, my vision is filled with a bucket, its expression somehow conveying deep concern, despite the crudely formed lineaments.
Oh, you live after all.
Pushing myself into a sitting position, I shake my head, trying to clear it of the lingering threads of her magic. I think I do.
I congratulate you. Many do not survive the magic that confers life. It is a tricky business, for the great author of such matters yearns for balance, a life for a life.
I gave my life away once already. The words are muttered, but she nods sagely in response.
And you have been gifted it again. Though whether or not you keep it, only the mists shall know. My herd will now move on, human. I hope that the fool whose savior you are saves you in turn. For the sake of my wood, if nothing else.
To my surprise, the woodsman, fitted with a new head on his shoulders and no longer hovering over me, turns to the dear woman and lowers himself before her on hands and knees, his odd head almost touching the ground at her feet.
I am eternally sorry, my queen, for my transgressions. Never again will you be importuned by my overambitious desires. I hereby rededicate my life in your service, and assure you that the wood shall flourish, and the pathways will ever lead to those glades which are most lush.
His voice is guttural and hollow, as might be expected to emit from such a source, but the words are rife with earnest feeling. She sighs, but her frosty expression shows no sign of melting.
Get up, fool, and see that you keep your word this time. Not for several centuries more am I likely to forgive you, but for now, I shall tolerate your presence in my wood, so long as you do not cause me any further inconvenience.
Wittershins' Phil is very, very sorry, Majesty.
Now, go about your work, and be grateful you are at least useful, even if no amount of reflection can make you wise.
He bends his head to the earth once more, then rises to execute a surprisingly graceful bow in my direction.
Human, as it is you who have secured for me this opportunity to make amends for past wrongs, I shall clear a path through the wood for you, as you seek. I am grateful for your determination and compassion, both in service to Her Majesty's needs, as well as my own. We could not else have found a resolution and moved forward. My offense was too great, and her wounds too deep.
The dear woman snorts contemptuously, but still turns, nodding my direction.
You at least have done well. I wish you luck in your journey, and I hope you shall live to see another sunrise.
Thank you for your generosity, Your Majesty. She smiles again, clearly pleased by my deference.
Tarry a moment longer, human. As you have proven yourself wise, I am willing to impart a small bit of advice beyond our original bargain.
She gestures me nearer, and I approach her, instinctively kneeling when I am close enough to feel the overpowering weight of her magic rolling off her form in lapping waves. She tilts forward, bringing her lips close enough to my ear to feel the air burn and blister with the intensity of her nearness.
Do not trust any path but the one laid out clearly at your feet. These woods are home to not only my people, but also Pixies. They ought to be handled with respect, but by no means should you give them your ear, or you too will lose your head.
She pulls back, eyes narrow and serious, then waves a hand as if to release me from her oppressive presence.
I have done what I can for you, human. Now, I will ask that you leave this wood, and I hope you shall never return to it again.
With a final, regal glance, she turns away, and the herd fall in line behind her, moving forward through the clearing as one. To my great surprise, I find that as they move on, a gap is revealed in the wall of the forest. The woodsman works quickly, it would seem. Listening closely, I can hear the distant thumping of his axe and the rustle of trees, and the mists themselves feel lighter than they did. Good work, Phil. My blood runs cold as the thought repeats. The mists feel lighter than they did, and I have 2 more tasks that I must complete before the mists clear. Brushing myself off, I quickly step out of the glade and into the forest gloom. Phil is so good, says Josie. The second task, cross the air. The pathway now cleared for me, I proceed into it, abyssal and constrained though it is. If this is the path I must cross to survive, then... A grouping of tiny fairy folk of bright countenance and attire appear before me.
Are you the one bid to cross this wood?
Do I tell them yes or no? The dear woman said to beware the Pixies, yes? So should I lie to them? I mean, but they obviously know that someone's bid to cross the wood. Tree says yes. Stranger danger, says Josie. Which is it? Which do we do? Cobalt says, you hear about their car's extended warranty. Widdershins, they sound so friendly, but we know Widdershins is not to be trusted. Rude. Let's go with yes. Tree said yes. Yes, especially with fairies. The Pixies laugh like sleigh bells.
Of course. And there is no other of your kind in this wood. No other of your kind in quite long. It is a rare honor indeed.
I shift, uncomfortable, and immediately a half-dozen of their band grasp at my sleeves, pulling me forward again.
You should not fear us, no. You have come so far, but have too far to go. We know all pathways, all the roads, and that one does not lead to ease.
I suppress the impulse to shake them off, instead observing the tiny creatures closely. They have no wings, yet seem able to traverse the air as easily as the ground. Each time they speak, it is in a small chorus, which I assume is because their individual voices would be imperceptible to me, standing so much larger in comparison. What do you mean it does not lead to ease? The little figures pull at me with more ferocity than before, their voices taking on a coaxing tone.
Come with us. Come along. We are much kinder than that other one. With us, you may be lulled with song, and treats more decadent than any you know.
I don't know. He practically raised me from the dead. He's a pretty nice guy.
Why brave the tasks ahead? Why should you struggle so? Come away, and turn your steps instead towards apple sweet and dances gay.
Second path opens before us, this one littered with leaves of crimson and gold, and dappled with sunlight that breaks through the mist in shafts of shimmering warmth. Will this take me to my destination? The little heads bob eagerly in unison.
It is the shortest path to your journey's end by far. By far more pleasant and much less long.
Josie says, we already have the bucket. What more could they offer us? The great tree said nothing to me of a possible shortcut when they assigned the tasks, but then they had no cause to mention it either. Assuming the Pixies are telling the truth, I decide to see where the Pixies lead me. I politely decline. I brush the Pixies aside and keep walking. What do we do? Any guesses? Melissa says, I think they sound very nice and friendly. Do you, Melissa? So you think that we should see where they lead us? Tree says, keep walking. Wittershins says, totally charming. But again, Wittershins cannot be trusted. She may as well be a pixie. Chase. And definitely not save first. Okay, let's save first. Save. I am too tall, says Wittershins. Don't trust the fairies, says Tree. I've saved, so we can see where they lead us. Let's see. I've never done this before. They don't like the other one. How trustworthy can they be, says Chase. If there's not a bucket here, I'll be sad. Okay, here we go. This is a bad idea. For the record, I don't think this is a good idea, but we're going to do it anyway. I am so tired of fulfilling expectations and responsibilities I do not have any say in. You're right. I'll follow your shortcut then. They laugh and gambol joyfully in reply, tugging me forward down the new path, and I no longer resist their pull. As I walk, they break apart into groups around me, some singing, others playing on minuscule pipes and drums. Rows of pixies line my shoulders, feet kicking with delight, the sensation no more than a flutter, and a small figure even sits atop my head holding a leaf out aloft to shade my eyes from the sun that pierces the mist. With every bend in the path, their number grows, dancing it around before me, weaving leaves together as they go, until a pair lift up the crimson circlet to place it on my brow. Lore, hello, and you are never seen again. Nice to see you, Lore. After traveling in this way for some time, I feel myself flagging, and I wonder how long the first path must be, if this is the shortcut. I glance anxiously at the mist, which seems to have surrendered more and more of its territory to the sunlight. Is it very much further? I admit I'm feeling a little tired, and I'm afraid that I may not make it in time.
Rest then, rest. 'Tis just ahead the path shall end. You need not rush, but rest in comfort.
As if they've been waiting only for the opportunity, a number of the pixies set about forming a seat for me, fashioned from a smooth stone and a cushion of leaves and moss. I gratefully settle on it, stretching my legs before me, and another cluster appears, their arms laden with delicacies, ruby raspberries and golden gooseberries, tart and sweet as first love, and then blushing apples and nuts draped in honey, and clear spring water in a small cup of wood that never seems to run empty. The treasures they bring are so rich in taste, each more perfect than the last in form and flavor. They must surely be enchanted. Soon I find myself as full and satisfied as if I had sat at a table spread with a full feast. Instead of dining only on a handful of nuts and fruit. My eyelids feel weighted, and I struggle to stay awake. As if sensing this, the pixies on my shoulders speak up, the small voices gentle as a lullaby.
Rest well.
Don't trust them,
well.
Shins.
'Tis just ahead the path shall end. You need not rush to meet it. Rest in comfort here. You've only a little more to go.
Yeah, this seems perfectly fine. This is fine. This is fine. I don't know what we were worried about. Though I am growing anxious to finish my journey, I am already nodding off, and so give in, settling back upon the leaves in a beam of sunlight and warmth. Just for a moment, and then I will see the path to its end. The warmth is gone. Everything is cold. Pain washes over me and recedes again in swift, violent waves, and each breath is a hard-fought battle. With great effort, I pry open one eye, and my blurred vision settles on the upturned wreck of the carriage. Oh no. But where are the pixies? Was it nothing more than a dream that I was near my journey's end? Then I realize that whether I have been tormented by pixies or by the fancies of a dying mind, this sunken forest glade is my journey's end. Whether I have walked the wood and conversed with strange creatures and returned, or whether I never left this spot at all, does not change the fate written in my blood, garish red against the green and brown of the earth. The labor of breathing has ceased entirely now. No more words will ever form on my lips and tongue, and never will I walk the woods again, alone or with others. Womp womp. Mistershins. Hello, Ditigris. In the stillness, I can hear the sluggish pulse of my own blood, my heartbeat a low percussion like a fading summer rain, growing ever more faint. My sight is gone, but finally I can see death for myself, both grotesque and beautiful. One icy hand moves to reach for me, and then there is truly nothing. It's 50-50 with Faye. I prefer leaning into my trust issues, says Lore. Well, that didn't work out the way we wanted it to. All right, our pre-roll just went off, so it's actually pretty good timing. So I'm going to run a quick ad. Sorry to anybody that's behind the commercial wall, but I will see you in 3. Okay. So I think if we just do continue, hopefully it takes us back to, we go to quick saves. Quick saves. This was it, yes? Yes. All right. So, thank you, Tree. So we're not going to let the Pixies lead us. So we're going to politely decline or brush the Pixies aside. Kind of rudely decline. Rudely, says Tree. Be polite, says Lore. What if they help us this time, says Josie. Josie! Be nice, says Melissa. They were not nice to us, says Tree. Okay, I think we have enough notes for being polite. Let's politely decline. Maybe they just had an off day. Second rule from the French: do not be indignant to the Fae. Okay, so we'll be polite. That's a polite vote from Tigris. Here we go. I dip my head in a quick bow, formulating my reply carefully. I'm grateful for the kind and very generous offer, and I would like nothing more than to keep company with you. However, I think I must continue on the harder path after all. I've already completed the first of the 3 tasks. I have to believe myself capable of completing the remaining 2 before the mist clear as well. Oh, Tree, thank you for shouting out the Fool. Hello, Fool. The Pixies murmur amongst themselves, then release my sleeves, still full of restless motion, but their good cheer unimpaired.
We shall not stop you. No, not we. With regret, we'll let you go. But since you are so nice to us, so nice and kind, we willingly part with this advice. When given 2 choices which both seem bad, 2 more crop up just behind. For rather than take this one or take the other, you may take both. Or neither.
Or rather than take one or the other, you may take both or neither. It was good that we were nice. We got some advice. I nod again, committing their words carefully to memory. Nonsense though they seem. Thank you, and I wish you well in your revels. Merrily the Pixies wave me off, wending their way along the sunnier path, the piping chorus of their voices drifting back to me faintly.
Though you choose the longer path to meet your journey's end, still, we hope you shall fill the time well till then.
The mists begin to gather more nearly as I walk on, even as the trees crowd less closely.
What's your step, human?
The voice is a smooth one, if thin, and scarcely louder than that of the Pixies. I stop, looking around myself to try and identify the speaker. Then, the fog shifts again at my feet. To my dismay, I find that I'm standing no more than a step away from the edge of a cliff. I tumble backwards precipitously, and the clouding mist breaks enough for me to realize I am at the top of a chasm, its depth impossible to guess in the fog. Thank you for saving me.
It seemed a wasteful death, and I am up here, above you.
Tilting my head back, I see the reaching branches of a towering dead tree, warped and tilting part way out of the earth. Several of the larger limbs already collapsed around it in a display of ongoing rot and decay. The tree? No. There. Barely visible, I identify a dark speck suspended in the air between two of the remaining branches. Are you a spider? The thin voice becomes sharp with impatience.
Yes, though I am also far, far more than that. Do you greet other humans as you have greeted me, human?
Is that a golden orb weaver, says Josie? I pause. No, I most often greet others by name. What is your name, then?
Just because you are willing to surrender yours to that other one, do not think that I shall so readily offer you mine. It is not a matter of what one is called, but how.
You address me as a human addresses a spider, something you perceive as small or lesser. For some reason, can I back up and see if that fires again?
It is not a matter of what one is called, but how. Just because you are willing to surrender yours to that other one, do not think that I shall so readily offer you mine.
There we go.
It is not a matter of what one is called, but how.
We did it again. Oh, we got a little bit of a bug here. That's okay.
It is a terribly off-putting attitude to take, given that I have just spared you a useless death.
Sorry, Wittershins. You have a bug to crush. I'm not a spider. Lore says, I love the voice acting. It adds so much to the atmosphere that's already there, enchanting the experience. Yes, I agree completely. I'm very sorry, Spider. I did not mean to be disrespectful. Is there a title you prefer to go by? Spider considers this a long moment.
Spider will do, though I am not adverse to compliments either.
I take this in stride. Generous Spider, can you tell me if there is any way across this chasm? This form of address seems to please her. She lowers herself from the heights of the dead tree, the silver strand of her thread glinting moodily in the uncertain light.
Much improved. And I can, though it would be a better question to ask if I shall.
I bring myself a little nearer, reflecting that a lifetime of work and often humiliating service to others has left me surprisingly well prepared for this exchange. Lovely, kind Spider, are you willing to help me, unworthy as I am? To my alarm, she draws upwards again as if to leave.
I said I'd like to receive praise for myself, not self-abasement from you. It does not further compliment me to make yourself pathetic, for if you are small and I am large, you can be of no use to me at all.
Shame plucks at my heart, heat rushing to my neck and cheeks in a wash. Yet I've known so many who would raise themselves by the grinding down of others. Though perhaps spiders are more discerning in their preferred form of flattery than people are? In either case, I must smooth this over. You are small and I am large, but you are not useless in my eyes at all, wise Spider. She lowers on her thread once more.
I was speaking figuratively, human.
Dr. Spider, they worked very hard on their PhD.
But if you will cease insulting yourself when you ought instead to compliment me, I may be persuaded to help you.
If you would advise me, thoughtful Spider, I would appreciate it. I have made it this far, but I do not see a clear way forward. She drops down farther still, now hanging level with my eyes, twisting gently on her thread in the wind, the mist catching on it and studding it with sparkling points of dew.
For a human, you learn quickly enough, I suppose. I shall advise you how to cross the chasm, but it will be for you to decide how to go about it.
I listen carefully, tilting forward to catch her voice.
There are 2 herbs which grow close by, each with different magical effect. When consumed, one enlarges and the other will shrink. The effects are temporary and last but a short while. Still, it would be long enough that were you and I the same size, I could weave for you a sail much like my young ones have, to catch the wind and ferry them on to new territories.
If we are the same size, you would do this, then?
I cannot do it while I am small and you are large, human. Either I must grow in size, or you must shrink. There is no other way of going about it.
An uneasy feeling settles in my stomach, but I do not see a ready alternative. Knowledgeable spider, can I not simply turn myself into a giant and step over the chasm? The dew is shaken from the strand of her web with the force of her laughter.
Oh, certainly. If you have time enough to travel all through the woods, collecting a great deal, and then spend another week consuming all you have gathered.
I frown at this. Why is that? Learned spider, why should it work on you but not me? She twitches on her strand testily.
Truly, humans have heads only for decoration. Would clothes of yours become me equally well, or my silks fit you? The herb which would make you small is by far more potent than that which would make you a colossus. It would increase my size to match yours, only because I am so much tinier to begin with. And a small amount of the herb for you is for me a great amount.
Melissa says this doesn't sound suspicious at all. Josie says they aren't super venomous. I say trust them. I hesitate to ask the question that weighs most heavily on my mind, but finally decide I must give it voice. Good and gentle spider, if we are made the same size, what would keep you from eating me instead of aiding me?
Nothing. It is, after all, my nature. But you have no other choice, do you?
The uneasy feeling curdles into outright dread. I don't know, cunning spider. Perhaps. Where can these herbs be found? She sways happily on her silk, her many legs drumming the air with glee.
Not far for you at all. Just a short walk back the way you came. If you look on the left-hand side, you will eventually spy a clump of green, spiked brambles with reddish fruit. Do not eat the fruit, but bring the leaves, and that shall make me grow. Some little bit further, you shall find a bushel of golden mushrooms. Break them off, and bring instead the bark they have formed upon. That will make you small.
Okay, so the leaves will make her large, and the golden mushrooms will make me small. Wait, what? Clump of green spiked brambles with the reddish fruit, but bring the leaves, and that will make her large. And bring the bark, and that will make me small. Okay, got it. Thank you. I shall go look. How badly do you want a spider silk cape? Hello, Dio Keeler. No, the mushrooms sound yummy, says Wittershins. I turn the puzzle over in my head as I search for the assigned herbs. Too soon I find the spiked green brambles, studded with wine dark reddish fruit. Okay, so we're gonna take the fruit or the leaves? What do you guys think? Just take the mushrooms, says Wittershins. Wittershins cannot be trusted. Tree says fruit. Cobalt says 1 clump leaves, 1 bushel mushrooms, 2 cups vanilla extract. We're gonna make something delicious. Okay, we'll take the fruit. As Tree has said, but the spider said not to take the fruit. Add a packet of active yeast. Oh, this is getting complicated. Okay, we'll take the fruit. How can I stop her from eating me once we are of his size? There must be some way, or is there some other means of crossing? I am no closer to finding the answer when I spot the golden mushrooms. Are spiders colorblind? Asked Josie. How do we know the colors are right? That's a great question. I don't know. Okay, do we remove the mushrooms and peel away a piece of the bark they grew on, or collect the mushrooms? Tigger says, to be fair, real silk was traditionally made from the cocoons of silk spinning moths, so it's not that far off. Mushrooms, says Tigris. So we're going to collect the mushrooms. Badger. No, Wittershins, no. What do we do? You did get me.
It's because we're old.
Tigris is going, mushroom. No, stop. We have to decide. Keeler's doing it now too. All right, we'll collect the mushrooms. We're collecting the mushrooms. Wittershins, stop it. I'm still unsure of the best course. I return to the precipice with the assigned items. I find the spider has been busy in my absence herself. Instead of spinning on a single strand at the mercy of the wind, she has tethered it to the trunk of the tree, the ground, and her branch. And is now employed with weaving lovely patterns in the air. Her silk so fine that it seems to wink in and out of being on a whim.
You have returned. Are you now ready to proceed?
I'm all in favor of picking the other options, like the Pixies talked about, said Lore. I hold the herbs before me, looking down with a knit brow and trying to determine what course would be best. My thoughts are interrupted by an indignant squeak.
I told you quite clearly which parts were needed.
Uh-oh.
And yet you bring to me the very portion I said not to.
You guys, what have we done? Her web trembles with the force of her indignation.
I recant my earlier commendation of you learning quickly.
Oh no!
Listen, not at all. Never mind. You are not even worth eating, and I ought to have let you die a wasteful death from the start.
She abandons her new web, absconding back to her first, and though I beg and plead, she no longer answers me with anything but silence. What can I do now? I'm sorry, Dr. Spider, I'm just stupid. Kickflip over the chasm? All according to plan, says Tigris. Yeah, but is it? It's the mushroom, wasn't it? Oh, and I didn't save. Uh-oh. Hopefully, they could roll. I could roll back, but we could use the ring. Oh, great, says Tree. Yeah, knock over the tree. Knock over the spider's tree and walk across it. That's a great idea. No, says Keeler. Tree, Wittershins. I do not trust the ring, says Josie. Use it, says Tree. No way that can go wrong. The spider did admit to the plan of eating us. It's true, Lore. One does not simply walk into the next area. Josie doesn't like the guy who gave it to us. Save first, says Tigris. Throw the ring into the chasm. Into the fire! No. I was there 2,000 years ago. Okay. All right. So how do we save? Save game. Save game? Can I
go off of the no, you go to
I
off
need...
of the quick save page.
Go to the quick save page.
No, you're on the quick save page. Get off of it. Go to page 1.
Page 1.
Below.
Okay, we're gonna save the game. There we go. We're saving. Okay, so instead of rolling back, we're gonna go ahead and use the ring. I look down at my hand, eyeing the strange ring, and grip it, twisting it 3 times. There's a sudden flash of light and a puff of smoke, and when I look at the ring again, I find that the gem, as pale as starlight, has cracked down the center. I'm sure this will have no impact on the ending, says Wintershins. Thanks, Wintershins. I believe you 100%. Don't worry about it, says Lore. I whirl upon the call as pale wings cut silently through the pale fog, a heart-shaped face at the fore. An owl. The owl settles on my arm, fierce talons cutting into my skin with searing pain. The sharp beak opens, and to my shock, words spill out in hissing, rasping verse.
Fleet of foot and swift of wing, I answer twisting of the ring. Once you've called, at once I come. Tell me whom and what needs done.
I blink at the owl, and it blinks back, black eyes calling to mind the great tree. I need to cross this chasm. How can I accomplish that? The talons release my arm, leaving stripes of blood in their wake, and the owl ascends noiselessly to one of the branches of the dead tree, head turning back and forth as if listening to some other callings, before refocusing on me with a fixed and disconcerting stare.
For this task, you must have some solid thing the air to pave. This tree once stood, proud and tall, and a bridge could make, should it ever fall.
You're saying I should fell the tree? But doesn't the spider live... The owl's head swivels away again, and it takes wing once more, crossing the chasm with ease. I heave a deep sigh, glancing back at the rotting snag, and then the chasm. A new home is found much faster than a new life. I look over the dead tree once more, eyeing the web far above me. I suppose I cannot help my nature either. I must choose. I want to live. I walk to where the gnarled roots of the tree are already breaching the earth, blindly reaching outwards like grasping hands, and I begin to push at them, listening to the sound of the wood straining and cracking with effort as more roots are brutally ripped from the soil in which they once burrowed. All the while the spider upbraids me, but I ignore her chiding and focus instead on my task. With a great echoing snap, the dead tree finally breaks, the tallest of its branches just barely crossing beyond the width of the crevasse. I only hope it holds. Stepping gingerly onto it, I begin to cross, freezing with each creak and sigh of the wood, each shift it takes as I tread upon it. No, Dr. Spider was only 1 day away from retirement! Kobold. Oh no. The trunk narrows and narrows again, and narrows further still, until I am only able to proceed by placing one foot directly in front of the other, arms outstretched in a desperate bid for balance. I am nearly to the end of this makeshift bridge when I feel it start to collapse underfoot, and I am forced to make a desperate leap toward the other side, landing hard against the lip of the chasm and scrabbling to drag my heavy body over it to solid ground. To my surprise, A length of the longest branch remains upon this side, snapped just below the spider's web. So incredible, so doubly inconsiderate of us, says Wittershin. She's a single mom with 600 kids. Don't ask where the dad went. Oh dear.
And serves you right if you had fallen with it, you brutish, selfish human. But I suppose such is your nature, after all.
For a time, I can only lie on my back, panting and waiting for my heartbeat to slow. Next time, can you maybe just fly me over, Owl? That would be a much greater help. The owl, however, is gone and does not answer. Dad was a snack. A whole meal, even. The third task, cross the water. So Wittershin says I need to roll back. So we're going to roll back. So instead of taking the fruit, we will take the leaves. And we'll take the bark instead of collecting the mushrooms. We have to show off Rem's art. Okay. I find the spider's been busy in my absence herself. Instead of spinning on a single strand at the mercy of the wind, she has tethered it to the trunk of the tree, the ground, and her branch, and is now employed in weaving lovely patterns in the air. Her silk is so fine that it seems to wink in and out of being on a whim.
You have returned. Are you now ready to proceed?
I hold the herbs before me, looking down with a knit brow and trying to determine what course would be best. I am. Okay. Give her the leaves. Eat the leaves myself. Chew on the bark. Offer her the bark. Give her the leaves, then eat the bark myself. Offer her the bark, then eat the leaves myself. Throw both over the chasm edge. What should we do? We want to get it right this time. Eat the bark, says Tigris. Make a taco with the bark and leaves, says Melissa, which makes a lot of sense to me. I think we need to give her the leaves, then eat the bark. Make her larger, make us smaller. An acorn, says Wittershin. There's no acorn. I'm helping. Okay. Let's give leaves and eat the bark. Shins is cheating. For a moment, I see her looming large and threatening in my vision. Well, I've played the game before, but jaws clicking in anticipated pleasure and ribboned with poison. But then, they continue to loom larger and larger still. The threat more and more abstract, the clacking jaws stilling as I step away from the drip of venom, even as I am then caught in the massive silk of her web at my side. Time to send the cheating Fae to set him in line, says Ditigris.
You!
Her voice is the rumble of thunder, deafening and splitting the sky itself. Her laughter is not less so.
You have tricked me. You, the human who chose to be so small. I told you before that if you are small and I large, I have no use for you. And now that it has come to pass, it is the case indeed. You are not worth the eating, being now less than a bite. So wise of you, so clever.
The web shakes with her laughter, and I am shaken along with it.
You have used my own words against me, and I am truly as generous as you have said before, and kind and gentle too. Now that my nature is not stirred to see you as prey, my intention to help you remains unsullied, and I am very happy to help you continue in your quest.
With a quick motion of her many legs, she severs my bonds one by one, and only a single strand remains. It catches the wind, rising through the mist and rendering the spider smaller and smaller again in my view.
Fare you well, human, and remember my words. That which is small is not the less mighty for it.
When I speak, it is from the depths of my heart. Good spider, I will remember, and nevermore shall I shun your kind as pests, but instead know that despite the limits of nature, they have potential to be much more. I am not too far to hear her reply, but her waving arms convey her farewell and well wishes clearly, and I find that every compliment I offered her, however false at the time, I now believe in truth. The effects of the herb prove very limited, and I only barely arrive at the other side before outgrowing my silk, colliding against the lip of the chasm and scrabbling to drag my heavy body over it to solid ground. Okay, we are now again at the third task. Clever enough to out-trick the Fae, well done, says Lore. But not the first time, were we? It took the wrong things, and then we broke her tree, and then the tree fell in the chasm. We made her really mad. Good times. At length, I moved from the edge of the chasm, pulling myself along the earth with effort before rising once more to my feet. That's now 2 of the tasks I have accomplished. I have crossed the wood and crossed the air. Next comes... Listening closely, I hear the gentle lapping of waves upon a shore, and espy the glittering of water ahead, wreathed in fog. Crossing water, and I cannot swim. Arriving at the rough-pebbled shore, I squint into the furling mist. Briefly, I spot a verdant isle in the center of the lake, bright as an emerald before being veiled once more, which seems likely to be my intended destination. A face breaks through the dark, mirrored surface of the lake, and a beautiful and distinctly inhuman gaze fixes on me curiously.
What are you?
His voice is supple and appealing, suggestive of pleasant company and abundant charm, and seems to emerge almost from the water itself. I'm a person, a human. 2 separate sets of lids flicker across the shimmering golden eyes.
Oh, that explains it. I thought you were an extraordinary-looking sort of animal. I have never before met one of your kind, a person or human. Welcome to my home.
Thank you, Sir Merrow. I appreciate your hospitality very much. I do not add that I'm unsure whether or not to trust it, given my experiences along this journey. The Merrow-Man laughs in a silver ridge of foam. He dips below the surface, popping up again a little closer to the shore where I stand. His skin glitters iridescent where the light catches it, and his voice turns honeyed and coaxing.
Won't you come play with me? A person, a human.
Though I feel the pull of his loneliness and longing, I shake my head firmly. No, I am sorry. I have an appointment I must keep. Nope, 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 says Ditigris. Lore says, hear me out. I would let them drown me. To each... I mean, I guess we'll see what happens. The face lowers into the water, and he blows bubbles petulantly before speaking again.
Why must you keep it? What appointment must you keep?
I point out over the lake. Though I cannot see the island through the fog, I must cross this water and reach that isle in the center. The round eyes shine, widening further still.
Oh. Is it the other one you seek?
I'm looking for the great tree, yes. His voice becomes the wail of a frightened child.
But I like you. A person, a human. And the other gives no one back that lands upon their isle.
The desire to give in buffets around me, pulling at my heartstrings, whispering through my mind. I bite down hard on my lip and try to redirect my thoughts to the stinging pain instead. After a short while, the emotional gale lightens and then falls away. The Merrow-Man sighs in a succession of spreading ripples.
It seems you are resolved all the same, and your kind are as cruel as they are strange. What is it you wish? Shall I carry you hence?
Okay, should we let the Merrow-Man take us to the island or decline and seek a different route? Lore, you are banned from answering this question. I'm kidding. You can weigh in. So what do we do? Do we let him take us? Discrimination. Do we let him take us or do we seek a different route? Tigger says, they sound like they want to keep you, so no. He sounds totally persuasive, says Wittershins, and we all know Wittershins cannot be trusted. Maybe, says Keeler. Maybe. Go with them, says Tree. I say yes, says Wittershins. I think Josie says, we are wearing iron chains, so surely that would have us drowned by accident. That's a great point, Josie. Yuki, thank you for the lurk. Do it, Lore. It says Lore. You can blame me. It's fine. Okay, quick save. We're gonna die. And it's all your guys' fault. Should have listened to die. To die Tigris. I warned you. Yep, you warned us. We're doing it anyway. Let's go to the island. My shoulders sag with gratitude and relief. I would very much appreciate your help in conveying me there, yes. I would simply swim up, says Kobold. I wade out into the water, picking my way carefully past the reeds and over the slick stones. Do we have Jaws music here? The Merrow-Man vanishes once more, rising immediately beside me. He grasps me by the waist with cold, webbed hands, and with surprising strength then tucks me beneath one scaled arm and dives deep beneath the lake's surface. Maybe the water's only like a meter deep. Maybe. It sounds like no, though.
I know all sorts of wonders here. Shining stones and ancient bones, and which fish are the sweetest?
So you're so sweet! Despite being fully submerged, his voice still rings as clear as before, radiant now with triumph and delight. I struggle in his grip, but the vice-like hold prevents the least movement from my arms, and all I can do is thrash my legs uselessly as they tangle in the pondweed as we pass.
I know all who dwell here, too. And I am tired of all I know. Oh, but you must know so many new things, strange creature that you are. Tell me your odd tales, and I shall sing my own to you in turn, and you may stay long as you please.
What little air I had gasped in surprise before is rapidly running out, and I give up the effort of kicking, twisting my head in an attempt to look at him, but the water is too dark to see through, my vision now too clouded.
And if you still insist on being taken to the other after seeing all that I could share instead, I shall take you then. Oh, but not before.
can no longer hold my breath, and I inhale water which rushes into my chest with searing pain, as if it were boiling. I cannot cough to expel it, the futile attempt only serving to fill me with more of the burning water. The Merrow-Man's voice reaches through my panic, heavy with concern.
We are not even a quarter of the way into the lake, and already you are dying?
Lord, not me with thalassophobic still voting for this. Who needs air anyway, right? Yes, I agree, Melissa. Who needs it? Not us. I make no answer, now overcome with drowsiness and recognizing the icy presence of death.
Alas. It is a pity you shall join my collection of dead things instead of living ones. I hoped you were made of sturdier stuff.
Worth it, says Lore. The Merrow-Man's words reach me only with a dim, flickering final awareness, and then death snuffs it out, and there is truly nothing. Are we sinking? We aren't a witch after all. Man just wanted to show you his Pokemon cards. And Lego sets. Not his fault you can't breathe. Okay. Let's go back to the quick saves. Okay, we're gonna decline this time. Hello, Dimes. Nice to see you. Charming and friendly though the Merrow-Man is, I hold little doubt that accepting even his offer of aid would see me quickly drowned instead. One more for the road, is this Lore? No? A tree, thank you for shouting out, Dimes. I'm very grateful for your kind offer of help, but I must decline that too. The hypnotic eyes flash with disappointment, and his tail rises out of the water and then viciously slaps down upon it again, sending out a rolling wave which crashes upon the shore and laps at my feet. I brace myself for another psychic siege, biting down once more on my still smarting lip.
Oh, but I want to keep you for myself, a person, a human. I could show you such wonders.
I fall a step further away from the water, and he turns his back to me, swimming farther out and calling back from within the mists.
Well, if your kind is so cruel and obstinate, perhaps you would not suit me as a playmate, after all. I wish you luck in crossing, a person, a human. And if you fail, well, perhaps it will be not too late to change your mind. If you beg sweetly enough.
What are we going to play with them? Go fish, says Josie. We're going to see their collection of dead things, I would think. I mean, that's one thing. Pokemon cards, Legos. I wait until I'm quite sure he is not going to return, then seat myself amongst the grasses, trying to determine my next course as the lake gently laps at my feet. If I can cross the wood and cross the air, I must also be capable of crossing the water. I only want
Pardon me, mortal. Might I ask for your aid?
My surprise in being addressed almost causes me to fall into the lake, and I whirl, looking around for the new speaker as I scramble back to my feet. I am startled to find an unnatural ball of fire and lightning has formed immediately beside me, crackling and reeking strongly of sulfur. Ah! The orb dances before me in apparent supplication, dimming and flickering pitifully in response to my alarm.
No, I mean you no harm. I do not know how to make my presence known beyond light. And sometimes I cannot be seen if you do not look for me first. Other times I cannot be seen if you look. But I never know myself which it shall be. It is terribly inconvenient.
Feeling embarrassed by my earlier fear, I straighten again, decrying amongst the flames and small bolts of electricity something like a face, scrunched and apologetic.
I would rather inhabit a more consistent form, and it is for this reason I beg your aid.
I am unwilling to surrender my own form to you, if that is what you're asking. The wisp flares and sparks, turning first pale as a light at a winter dawn, and then crimson as a summer sunset.
Not at all. You already inhabit your form, which makes it far too crowded for me to possess in comfort. Rather, I would have your help in constructing a form of my own, being as you are a living thing, and better understand such matters.
Fill the bucket can come to the rescue. But he's with the, well, maybe. The warped and shifting visage contorts and twists hopefully, the fire guttering down to a wan yellow, the burning scent, so like rotting eggs, now worse than ever. What do we say? I'm sorry, I do not have time to help you. What is it that you want from me exactly? Shall we tell him off or get more details? I'm leaning towards getting more details. I say we help, says Keeler. I agree. Let's go for it. He's smiling. Let's help, says Melissa. The light flares, sending skittering threads of lightning dancing up and down my arms, my hair rising in the charged air.
Not so much for you, but a great deal for me. Though I have collected many things which once held life, I cannot possess them without their carrying some organic form as well. I cannot myself see but spirits as I pass. I do not know what a proper form ought to be.
How is it you can see me, then? Light blinks at me, puzzled.
I can only see your spirit, but mortals are quite distinct to me, and carry a weight we others can only imagine. It is why you shine so bright in our eyes, and it is our reason for so dearly coveting that which you have as a birthright. That brilliance, that flaring light you shine before being so quickly again snuffed out. Ah! Who would not trade the dull years of eternity to know the force with which a mortal feels the pain and sorrow, the bliss and joy?
You have no idea what I look like, then? The wisp laughs, an act expressed less in sound than in the darting rays it sends out in random bursts.
I know how your spirit appears. Why should your form matter? Are you your body, or are you yourself? You light up all this wood, yes, and shimmer like a beacon from here to beyond. The vessel that holds you does not define you. It merely serves you. Else, how could I see you at all?
I consider this unusual perspective and find I approve of it. It is not the way we mortals perceive others, but I like your standards far better. Where's your collection? I will help you if I can. The wisp sends off more sparks, appearing like nothing so much as a firework display.
Thank you, mortal, thank you. For this service, I'll do you good in turn if I can. I will lead you to my collection. Here it is. All once living, but occupied no longer. If put together, will these not serve to make for me a body of my own?
Okay, so we have the ability to select a head, torso, arms, legs, hands, and feet. So, what would work for the head? There's the rotting log, an ancient skull, animal bones, dead fish, crab carapaces, or driftwood. Anybody have a vote? Wisp is an ally. Crab head. Oh, wait, what? Crab, it says crab carapace. We monster factory the wisp a body. Crab, everybody says crab. We can make Billy Bass the singing fish. Okay. Okay, so we'll do crab carapace. Here we go. Oh dear. That isn't right at all, is it? Okay, try again. It won't let us do the crab. We have driftwood, ancient skull, animal bones. Who wrote this? This Wintershins. The rotting log or the dead fish. The crab bones connected to the dead fish. Is that a vote for the dead fish? Skull, says Melissa. I think that's probably the way to go. Wow, this looks like it was once the head of something, at least. Okay, and now the torso. We have the driftwood, dead fish, the crab carapaces, the animal bones, or the rotting log. Dead fish connected to the driftwood. Just nail the fish to the log and have it sing. So what do we want to do for the torso? Crab, says Wintershins. Let's try it. Let's see what happens. Nope, not that. So not the crab carapaces, the most popular item in his collection. A log sounds sort of torso-shaped. I agree. Let's try the rotting log. Thank you, Melissa. Seems the closest to a body. Hopefully it won't fall apart too soon. Okay, let's do the arms, driftwood, dead fish, animal bones, or crab carapaces. If only we had a doctor with lots of legs here to help us. The spider seems very confident. Fish, says Josie. Animal bones? Crab. Let's try the crab again. Not quite. The fish, dead fish. Not quite. Who said animal bones? Animal bones. These are the closest to the right proportions, I think. I lay out the bones as evenly as I am able, and my eye catches on something. Are those bite marks? Ugh. Okay, now the legs. Crab carapaces, dead fish, or driftwood. An acorn. Wintershins, no! Time, says Josie. Phil could have helped. We'll do the driftwood for the legs. They do not quite line up properly. Driftwood again, says Keeler. Crabs! The writer is putting a dampener on our creativity. How dare, right? They do not quite line up properly, but as that is so far the least of my concerns with this body, I resign myself to the imperfection. Oh well, sturdy as I can make them, I think, even if they aren't precisely symmetrical. Okay, for hands, dead fish or crab carapaces? I don't know which I would rather have. They're both very appealing. Fish, says Josie. Dead fish for hands. No, it says. It's gonna have to be the crab carapaces then. I look over the remaining broken legs of the crabs with a flash of ghoulish humor. With these for hands, the Wisp will even have extra fingers to spare. And for the feet, finally, the dead fish. Fish hands, says Tigris. Dead fish. Feet are known to smell, though this seems a trifle excessive. My skin crawls upon contact with the cold scales, and I set them in place with alacrity. I hope the Wisp isn't fond of dancing. I've done the best I can with this. He looks great. The Wisp hovers over the monstrous form I've shaped, and then in a flash of light vanishes and the horrid assemblage rises from the shore, first standing on one arm and leg, and then the other, before properly sorting out from top to bottom, ligaments of lightning tying the alien pieces together. They call him Fish Feet Jimmy. C'est magnifique! The horrifying figure shuffles to the edge of the water, looking down at his own reflection before turning back to me.
How splendid it is! How fine and lovely! I see you now, I do! It is true your form is nothing like this one, but I can tell from my superior proportions that you have made me more handsome even than yourself. I am thankful for your compassion, mortal. I stand your friend, and in your debt. You may ask of me a boon, and if it is in my power, I shall provide it.
If Jimmy kicks you, does that count as slapping you with a fish? I think it must. I turn this over in my head, unsure how the Wisp might be of any help, but unwilling to turn away the offered aid either. I need to cross the water to the island in the middle of this lake. Do you know of any way I might do so? The awful head twists in wholly the wrong direction, then rotates back to me.
I know the place you seek. I have nothing that will help you to cross the water, but I can at least light your way through the mists.
With a hissing, popping sound, the Wisp conjures a small ball of light, which shines brightly through the gloom and fog.
Here is a fraction of my spirit. Hang it before you, and it shall show your path to the isle.
I accept the ball of light gingerly, and to my surprise it does not burn, but only emits a pleasant warmth, if also accompanied by the distinct scent of sulfur.
My debt is now paid. May you find your way clearly going forward, mortal.
With this, the alarming form shuffles off into the woods and out of sight. I cradle the little light in my hands, looking back towards the water. The light shines out in a bright beam as I do. The light shines out in a bright beam as I do, piercing through the mist and reaching to touch the green of the isle in the distance. Well, I can at least see my destination, even if I cannot reach it. I fall silent again, looking around me for anything that might serve as a raft, when I hear the skittering of many tiny legs, all rushing towards me. I turn in alarm, unsure where I can seek refuge from whatever is approaching, but before I can decide whether the greater threat lies within the water or out of it, I hear myself hailed by a familiar, thin voice.
There you are, human. I see that you've managed to survive. Small wonder, I suppose, since you were clever enough to escape me with your life intact.
I endeavor to identify her in the sea of arachnids which now surround me. Finally, my gaze lights on her familiar markings, and I bow respectfully. Hello, good-natured spider. What brings you here? Dr. Spider! I suppress the urge to sidle away from the churning swarm of spiders, which now seem to be spinning a dense web in unison.
You do, human. The more I considered the matter, the more it seemed to me to be a disappointing, wasteful end, were you to succeed in outwitting me, only to fail in a pathetic way thereafter. My pride smarts at the very thought.
She stands apart from the rest of the horde, tapping angrily at any of the undulating mass that dare stray too close to her.
We are by nature solitary, but I resolved to gather my children together and help you, if you still lived.
I look down at her wonderingly. Generous spider, you are here to help me? How? She waves her legs at me impatiently.
Do not make me regret it by asking the obvious. Though, we are too small to do this alone. In this number, we are capable of weaving a sail for you. Though, still needs a vessel, which you seem to be lacking.
Sweet spider, can't I ride the wind as I did before? Her voice turns sly.
If you wish to make yourself small again, the wind might be able to carry you even that much greater distance. But you would do well to consider all your present company, both here and in the lake. It is a very imprecise mode of travel, after all.
She heaves a tiny sigh.
And there is still the matter of my pride. Well, you have used your wits to find a light to guide you at least, so I'm sure you will be able to figure out a vessel as well.
The swelling tide of small bodies recedes, revealing a sail of spider silk hanging suspended between the reeds. I am grateful beyond words, kind spider. I'll do my best not to die a senseless death and embarrass you.
See that you avoid it, human. We shall depart now back to our respective corners. Fare you well.
With the same rattling and scraping of legs, the spiders depart. We need a surfboard so we can go kite surfing. Dr. Spider is also an overstimulated mom. I really like that take. That's good. Take from the author. What shall I do for a vessel then? I'm alone for less than a minute before a heavy tread sounds behind me. Who? Oh! Woodsman? He emerges from the gloom, a pile of lumber slung over one broad shoulder.
Her Majesty complained that I have now cluttered her wood with the trees I felled, and bid me make myself useful and tidy up. She suggested you might be in need of aid with your tasks, so I have built a bridge over the chasm for you.
How very kind. He seems to anticipate high praise for this act of generosity, however belated it may be. I swallow, pointing out that I have clearly crossed the chasm already, instead summoning a wan smile. I thank you for it very much, and should I ever need to make my way back across again, that will prove a great help indeed. Di says, feels like you're near the end. I want to play it later. I'll be heading off for the night. That reminds me, Di, thank you. If you guys want to download Burdock, if anybody wants to download Burdock, the link is right here. And I'll go ahead and pin it at the top of the chat. You can find it there. Di, thank you for hanging out. Appreciate you being here. I hope you sleep well. For now, though, it is the water I must cross. The crude carved eyes blink down at me owlishly, then look up at the lake and the isle.
I see. I do not have enough lumber left to build you a bridge to the isle, I fear. And even if I did, I do not think the other would tolerate such an open thoroughfare connecting to their realm. They are not unlike Her Majesty in their particularities, and I have already lost one head. I do not desire to lose another.
My shoulders slump with disappointment. That cannot be helped, I suppose. I would not want to lose my head either. The woodsman jerks forward, patting my shoulder in an almost human display of sympathy.
There now. I dare say I could build you a raft. However, I see you have a fine sail already, and a light to guide your way. It would be enough to ferry you across to the place you seek, as the winds here are drawn toward where the magic is strongest.
Man, this other one guy sounds kind of rude, says Cobalt. Feels so cute, though, this tree. Before I can do more than lift my head in surprise, he has moved away and is now busily lashing together the trees he has brought with him with bark, roots, and in places, scraps torn from the rags he is wearing. As before, the work is completed within an uncannily short time. Finally, he fits it with a short mast, the sail now billowing in the wind.
There. I have helped you 3 times now, and also cleared away the wood, as I was bid to. Perhaps my queen will be pleased with my work. Farewell, human.
The real magic is the friends we made along the way. He turns and shuffles back into the mists, heavy footfalls still echoing out over the lake. Though I cannot help regarding my makeshift craft with extreme skepticism, I place my little guiding light upon the prow all the same, pushing the raft into the water and leaping aboard. To my great relief, it moves steady and true, taking on enough water to damp my knees and feet, but thankfully not so much as to capsize. The light shines impossibly bright and reflects the green of the isle so strongly as to stain the surrounding atmosphere in the same disconcerting hue. Journey's end. The words are murmured, and I am caught off guard when a familiar voice answers through the mist. We're going to leave it right there. Our pre-roll is off. Going to take a quick break. Sorry to anybody that is behind the commercial wall, but I will see you in just 3 minutes. Okay. I'm caught off guard when a familiar voice answers through the mist.
Indeed it is. My very own little sacrifice.
The ferry? I thought it was a tree. My craft settles against the lush shore of the isle, and I disembark, my feet sinking into soft mosses and golden leaves. I am almost alarmed by the pervasive sense of peace that radiates from my surroundings, feral and overgrown as they are. Don't be so limited in your titles.
Welcome, my own one. You have finished your journey and stand now at the gates of my kingdom. I am pleased you have succeeded in your tasks.
Turn my face upwards toward the resonant voice that sounds from somewhere high in the trees, and after some searching, find the great tree, their form draped negligently over a branch like spreading lichen. No sooner do I meet their watchful gaze than they smile, dropping from their perch to land soundlessly upon the ground before me, verdant and charismatic as when first I saw them in the clearing. Sacrifice as a term of endearment. I have done as you asked. I crossed the wood, I crossed the air, and now I've crossed the water. The green mouth quirks with pleasure in response to this, and they step nearer still, looking me up and down.
So you have indeed, my dear. So indeed you have. And in return, I shall now grant you your life.
One green hand rises, stroking my brow where they had first traced the sigil. At their touch, I feel my skin prickle with an animal awareness of danger, but it passes away almost as quickly, swallowed in a gentle wave of honeyed warmth and calm. It does not burn or sear like the heated strangeness of magic, but rather settles upon my skin like a well-worn cloak, something that is not other, but comforting, and my own. Now's the time. Punch him in the face with the iron chain, says Josie. My life. My life is mine once more. In the past, I never recognized how precious it feels to own one's destiny and self. Although, is my destiny now truly my own? The great tree seems to read my defiance in my posture, raising long-fingered hands in a gesture of playful defense.
Now, tell me your tales. Or shall I tell them for you?
I meet the black eyes, deep as an eternity studded with stars, and the smiling mouth takes a whimsical tilt.
You gave to me your name, so allow me to sing your story. When first we met, you were near dead, and by my magic spared.
They shape two faint figures from the mist, which drift in the air between us.
I gifted you your life, my dear, and lent to you my bond.
The mist encircles the figures in a ring, before contracting sharply and dissipating, revealing that the real ring is no longer upon my finger, but hanging, suspended in the ether. The great tree plucks it from the air, playing with the ring as might a magician with a coin. Gold flashing between their long fingers.
Now for the tasks. Let me see.
They roll the ring onto one broad palm, brow knit as they examine it closely, as if scrying for answers. The gems wink in the light, all three now showing green as summer leaves. I cannot read the great tree's expression, the mists weaving around and between the golden horns and veiling their eyes.
To cross the wood.
The mist rises and spires behind them like the dense glade where I first arrived.
I laughed and laughed and laughed again at your act of substitution. You gave the woodsman his new head and the queen her restitution.
The constellations in their pitch-black eyes burn unexpectedly warm, and they nod approvingly.
And that's one. You've proved diligent and resourceful.
The phantom grove of trees falls away again to mist.
Through the wood you made your way, the first task now complete. You did not stray from the path, despite the Pixies' temptations. I commend you for it. I should have disliked rescinding my magic, after taking the trouble of saving you to begin with.
A hand rests lightly upon my head, as if rewarding this choice with their benediction.
And so you lived on to attempt the next task.
The mists part sharply to either side of the great tree.
Her web alone is not the danger when in a spider's lair, and yet you showed your wits alert and escaped uninsnared.
Yes, we definitely did not fall for this for the fairies, says Josie. They break into a wide smile, radiant enough to make the strands of mist glisten and shine like spun gold.
And that's two. You are quick-witted and clever, my dear.
The great tree strokes my cheek as if I were a cat. With this, the mists fall, now pooling at our ankles, and for the first time since entering the woods I can see the glorious landscape around me in full. Towering mountains, blanketed in red and gold trees, glaucous water shimmering below the veil of fog that rides upon it like steam swirling in a teacup. The great tree stands at the center of my vision as if wrought from the earth itself, bound together with light and shadow. The air around them is perfumed with the scent of a forest in the rain, of growth and decay inextricably commingled, and their skin glows both the lush celadon of new life and the dull patina of rot. Catching their gaze, I understand for the first time that such an immortal being does not live outside of life and death, but instead inhabits a primal intersection containing both together.
Two tasks complete, but with one left. The most difficult among them. Easily you might turn away from the Wisp and their plight, but instead you offered them your aid and earned from them their light.
The great tree leans in very close, inhaling the air at my side as if sampling it. When they speak, the words ghost across my skin, raising the hair along my arms.
And that's three. You are compassionate and kind, precious one. My sweet little sacrifice.
The great tree reaches out and takes my wrist, then pulls back their hand sharply. Anger flashes across their face with the violence and speed of lightning, but quickly fades to wry humor.
Oh, what have we here? Iron?
I fall back a step, nodding warily and uncertain of the great tree's mood or what danger they may now pose. I hope you are not too offended by my taking precautions with the life you've restored to me. If I have a future, I'd like it to be of my own choosing. At this they laugh, the residual anger clearing from their brow.
Level 1. You are well taught. I dislike being fooled, but still I must respect you for your scheming. You have earned your life already, and I cannot force our bargain to my own conclusion.
The black eyes glint, amused.
How then shall you end our story? Will you discard those hateful iron cords and come with me to my kingdom? Or are you content for us to part, leaving these lands to resume your former life?
The flash of their anger is still fresh in my mind, and I hesitate. Were I to remove these chains now, I would stand before you without any protection.
I could easily have struck you down well before this, were it my inclination. But it is for you to determine whether to take the risk and then learn the answer, or if you are content acting on suspicion without ever confirming its truth.
I chew on my lip, considering my options. The long journey home to poverty or the uncertain fate of following the great tree beyond the border of the world I know. What do we do? Do we remove the iron and go with him? Or keep it on and leave? Josie says, we can go home and start a bucket business. A bucket empire, says Lore. Bucket gallery? There's all sorts of things that can be done with buckets. Punch him in the throat, says Cobalt. Why don't we have that option? Well, I would say I was surprised, but I'm not surprised that we don't have that option. Blame the writer, says Wittershins. And what do we need for buckets? Iron? That's right. Remove the iron. I don't want to go home, says Keeler. Okay, we have our first vote. Keeler says, let's go with the fairy. The great tree. Listen, says Lore. Home wasn't much fun, says Melissa. There's 2 votes. We've got 2 votes for removing the iron and staying with the fairy. I agree, says Lore. 3 votes. Josie says, I don't trust the great tree. That's 3 against 1, Josie. You have the very smexy fae in front of you, says Lore. Remember, though, Lore got us drowned before. So there's that. Not a tree hugger, eh? Okay. Details. It sounds like we're gonna go remove the iron. Watching the great tree, I roll up my sleeves, unwinding the coils of the broken iron traces from first my wrists and then bending down to take them off my ankles. This guy seems like a nerd. Punch him in the throat, says Cobalt. That wasn't one of the options, Cobalt. All the world holds its breath, as if waiting. The water now unnaturally still, the mists unmoving, no ripple of wind setting the leaves to dancing. As the last chain pulls free, I let the traces slip through my fingers into the water, which swallows them up again without so much as a ripple. Squaring my shoulders, I turn to face the great tree once more, still filled with trepidation. I will stay, of my own accord. The great tree takes my hand in theirs with a winsome smile and traces one sharp-tipped finger over my palm. I hiss through my teeth as it leaves a thin red gash in its wake, blood seeping up from it in tiny beads.
You seemed to think I should spill your blood in retaliation for your trickery. And I do not wish to disappoint you.
Oh, this guy's going to be a terrible roommate. The same finger now traces back over the wound, and the cut knits itself closed once more. The great tree taps my nose and laughs.
The matter is now resolved, little sacrifice.
Oh, didn't mean to cut him off. Back up.
The matter is now resolved, little sacrifice. I am pleased you shall remain at my side.
To my surprise, the long arms enwrap me in a firm embrace, as though a tree has grown around me, entwined with the contours of my form and unyielding.
I desired you for my own. You are resourceful and clever and compassionate, where my own kind are inflexible and simple and selfish.
Though they release me, the faint sense remains that we are now somehow too entangled to be separated again without harm to us both. The ring which lies in the palm of their hand begins to grow, and they blow upon it, causing it to shine more brightly still, the 3 gems now green like beacons of light. With a pleased smile, they hold out the gleaming circlet, settling it upon my head like a crown.
And now that you are indeed my own, I surrender myself in turn.
Okay, now we can punch him in the throat. They drop to one knee, taking one of my hands in theirs and placing a kiss upon it. The kiss lingers as they inhale my scent. When the black eyes rise to meet with mine, they are filled with both pride and longing.
I bow to none but you, as you have earned my respect.
They rise once more, smiling down upon me. Did we just get married?
Let us go now, and greet our subjects, my dear. A sacrifice, no more.
Keeler says, listen. I'm still in mourning. Aren't I?
My people will ply you with all you might desire, and we shall rule the realm I have together as companions, for as long as the stars may shine.
Though a little overwhelmed by the weight of my choice, still, I step forward hand in hand with them into the place where the vegetation is brightest and bathed in golden light, passing into a world beyond all imagining, never to return.
I am so glad you have come. One last thing, my own one. You asked me my name in turn, and now I shall give it to you.
They lean in close, voice pitched low in an intimate whisper.
My name is...
Burdock. The fairy, CobaltKobold, Vengeful spouse, Josephine Barger, the dear woman, Vanessa Benoit, helpers, Emily Morse-Lee, the Woodsman, Chase Villa, the Pixies, Melissa Carrington, the Spider, Georgie Hale, the Merrow-Man, Dylan Keeler, the Wisp, Aiden Childs. You guys, all the actors that are here present, you guys really made this project sing. I really enjoyed playing through again. And it was great. Shout out to voice director EeeCee for the direction, and shout out to the new CGs from Remnantation. So I'm going to have everybody, everybody who's going to participate in the Q&A. You were the first person to pronounce my surname right the first time. Well done, me. Pat on the back for me. Thank you, Josie. Oh, Tree said they're going to bed. Tree says, I am going to bed, still not feeling well. Good night, my friends. Mistershins, you are a delight, and I will watch the VOD for the interview. Tree, thank you so much for being here and being a fantastic mod. Appreciate you. See you next time. Quick shout out for Tree. If anybody, Tree also streams and is a wonderful streamer. You can follow Tree there. So I'm gonna have everybody hop in the Discord, and we'll do a quick sound check. We'll hit the be right back screen, and we'll talk to everybody. So I will see you in just a minute. Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us and participating in this project and being present to let us talk to you. I really feel like this project now really sings with voice actors involved. So kudos to everybody. I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. You don't have to answer them if you don't want to. There's no obligation. People in chat, appreciate everybody still being here. If you have questions for the actors from Burdock, please go ahead and type them out. And it'll help if you use the highlight message feature. if you have channel points, so that I don't miss them. Sounds like you need to adjust the thermostat. Just lower. So this was wonderful. Really appreciate everybody doing this. So just going to introduce everybody. We'll start with Chase, because we've had Chase here before. Chase Villa was the Woodsman,
Otherwise known as Phil.
Otherwise known as Phil in the the chat headcanon.
Proudly.
Welcome, Chase. Let's see. Dylan.
Yep.
Dylan was the Merrow-Man.
The one that everybody was willing to drown for.
And if you
I was
can
honestly surprised.
were you?
I wasn't.
Yeah, Lore was like, we're going there. Lore's going, listen.
No, I had a handful of folks who like commented when I'd first released the game that like it was like, I knew I was gonna die with the Merrow-Man, but I did it anyway. And then as soon as I heard your reading for it, it's like, oh no, this is just gonna make that situation worse.
Interesting.
I can see Dylan is taking that well. Good. We have CobaltKobold, who played the fairy. Hello, Cobalt.
Hello.
Who has been awake for 3 hours and has had a croissant. Josie.
Good day.
A good day.
It's a good way to start the day, at least.
Josephine, Barger. Josie, do you prefer Josie or Josephine?
I'm fine with either, really.
Okay. Josie was the vengeful spouse. Did a wonderful job as the vengeful spouse, as the ghost in the beginning. Melissa Carrington was the Pixies.
All of them.
Hello,
Yep.
Melissa.
Hello.
And then, of course, I'm Mistershins, and Mistershins, the writer, sound design, backgrounds, direction, is here as well.
I'm also wearing the Mistershins hat, so
You have so Mistershins is on my microphone.
On voice for recognition as to who's speaking.
No bias here at all. And then, of course, there were other people that are not here. The spider was Georgie Hale. The wisp was Aiden Childs. The deer woman, Vanessa Benoit. And then, of course, all the people that helped. The helpers.
Emily Morse-Lee.
I didn't have them on my list for some reason. So yeah, a lot of other people involved in the project, but it's so nice to talk to everybody. So I just kind of want to start off with something for the entire team. And you can kind of chime in. If you don't want to chime in, I'll call on you. But how did we kind of know how, like, we do interviews about Spooktober here before, so we kind of know how jam projects come together. But for this, coming back to a jam project, and adding voice acting to it, big undertaking. How did you guys all end up on this project? How did you all come together? Maybe I'll start with Chase.
Yeah, well, I had the privilege of working on Tell It Slant, where I
yes.
was cast as the other one through an online touting of a role, and I had the luck of being absolutely outclassed by a fabulous voice team in that game. And then it happened again this time. I've been so lucky to be asked back to do the Woodsman and to be among another very fabulously talented group of people. So I'm here by association.
This is a great answer. Of course, very, very humble. Chase is the guy that last time we interviewed him, somebody in chat was like, that man sounds like a Scottish king, a medieval king.
A medieval king.
That's what it was. Great. What about you, Dylan?
Since I'm freelance, I'm always, I've got my eyes out for gigs, and I just happened to stumble on a page on casting clubs, I think. No, cast club? No. Wrong one. Sorry. I'm in a lot of those. Voice Acting Club, that's it.
Fair enough.
Voice Acting Club's Discord server has a tab for, paid, and then like for different non-paid projects. And so I was browsing, and then I stumbled upon, Burdock, and I was reading the premise, and I don't know what just jumped at me, but I'm like, I need to do this. I need to take this on. So
Nice. I'm so glad that I'm so glad that you did. Now a lot of people want to be drowned by you. So that's nice.
Evidently.
Kobold, how about Chase mentioned your involvement in Tell It Slant.
Yeah, so I got found the casting call for Tell It Slant in September time, but yeah, basically got in there and was, as Chase said, completely outclassed by the fellow cast, and then got to get first dibs on what we wanted for Burdock, because we've proven ourselves to be, at the very least, we did the job.
So anybody, for people that are maybe watching this later, Cobalt won the Best Actor Award for the Spooktober Jam.
This last
for 2024 for Tell It Slant. A lot of competition, big achievement. So pretty incredible for a first outing in visual novel jam.
Yeah, it kind of was.
Pretty incredible. You had a lot of dialogue, a lot of words.
I'm not doing a great job of biting my tongue anymore. I have to say, Chase and Cobalt and Vanessa, who voiced the Deer Woman, were actually the people who completely altered my thinking on how worthwhile it was to have voice actors on a project. I didn't previously really feel it was a necessity, but after Tell It Slant, it has completely shifted my thinking, and now it's everything sounds so quiet now. So it only made sense to reach out to them first, because I am in such awe of all three of them, and their talents cannot be overstated, in my opinion.
So the other person,
all of this humble nonsense can go the way of the dodo.
Yeah, Laura says you all seem so humble for what you do. So the other person was Vanessa, right?
Yes, Vanessa, who is the Deer Woman.
That's great.
I was super excited that they all agreed to work on Burdock as well.
Josie, what about you? How did you get involved?
So like other people, I'm freelance, so I kind of just browse around, and I think I found the casting call on the Game Jam Discord server, because I'd auditioned for some other projects in there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I know Aremia and stuff, who leads a lot of these game jams.
Okay.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, and I was just voice acting. I found the call for that, looked through the characters, and was like, oh yeah, I can do that.
Wonderful.
And funnily enough, the Vengeful Spouse was the one I felt that I most phoned in. I was like, yeah, I got no shot at that one. Yeah.
Oh, that's
I
amazing.
have no shot at that one, but I'm submitting it just because you never know.
That was one of the trickier ones for me to cast, so that's funny to hear.
Vial, thank you for the very generous gift of bits. Vial says, VA talent for the win.
Seriously.
And this is the first, I guess, non-fan project I've ever actually been cast in, so I'm also just in awe of everyone else.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Congratulations. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
We're delighted to have you.
Melissa, how about you?
I had auditioned for Tell It Slant, and then I think it was the voice director, EeeCee, reached out.
And they auditioned and you didn't cast them?
They weren't right for it, but EeeCee and I actually...
Oh my god, how insulting.
There were... Shut up. There were a handful of
Yeah, I'm
VAs
so
that
mad I'm never going to work with them again, clearly.
Oh my god.
No, there were a handful of VAs that we were like, this person is amazing. They're not quite the right fit for this role, but let's hold them in reserve. I have a background in theater myself, and I loved working in companies, so that's kind of my mindset when it comes to game dev as well. So it's like, oh, this person, they don't fit a role in this particular production, but maybe the next one will have the right thing. And so Melissa was actually one of the people that EeeCee and I specifically reached out to, because we were like, oh, they were amazing. We wanted them for something. I feel like they could fit in one of these other roles, maybe with Burdock. Because with Tell It Slant, we had a whole 3 roles to fill, and Burdock had a little bit more room and different characters.
That must have been a gratifying feeling, I would hope, Melissa.
Yeah, it was. And then the character was so fun to play too. So, or characters, I guess, because it's a whole like chorus of Pixies.
Oh, you did a wonderful job.
Thank you.
I kind of want to. I know that we had some questions in advance, and I didn't want to stick to those like by rote. But I was hoping that each of you could talk a little bit about how you got into acting or voice acting, and how long you've been doing this. And since we've kind of been going in clockwise order from Chase. Chase, do you mind starting?
Well, absolutely not. I have been voice acting now for 6 or 7 months after being thrust into it by friends and family, got into narration and do audiobooks and so on, and doing a bit of commercial work now, and it's taken off a little bit better than I expected, and now I get to say the very dreaded sentence to my parents, I think I'm going to be an actor. And,
it melts my brain every time I hear how short a time you've been
you
doing
say
this.
6 or 7 months into here. I'm glad that you have people in your life that are forcing you that forced you to put yourself out there a little bit.
Yeah, they certainly did, and
Means you have
they've been
friends.
I should think so, and so yeah, I've been honored to be in a company like this. I played the game through myself and was dazzled by everyone's performances, and because I'm still dipping my toes into video game acting, it was I don't know, it was a unique privilege, I think, for me to see how it's done.
Dylan, how about you?
Where do I begin?
At
Because
the beginning.
if I want to be technical about it, I only been doing this professionally for maybe about or rather ramping up my professionalism maybe about 2-ish years ago. But if I'm being technical about it, voice acting's kind of been part of my life since 2016.
What do you mean by technical? If you're being technical, what are those early experiences?
A lot of my early exposure was through coming across fan projects over places, even back when I was more active on Tumblr. The first roles I've ever booked was from this one call I just stumbled upon randomly that was like, hey, I'm making a little animation series based off of Fire Emblem Awakening. And what's wild to me to this day is I only really played the demo. I've never done voiceover, but something smacked my little, God, was I 17? Yeah, I was 17. My little 17-year-old brain. I was like, I'm going to do this.
That's awesome.
And I just did it. And then with a webcam microphone, I think that's what else. I went in there with my fucking Logitech thing and I did it.
I'm sure you agree that even though those are fan projects and maybe not professional grade,
they're building
but
blocks.
The experience is experience,
It counts.
right?
It all counts.
Yeah.
You're acting. If you're writing, you're writing.
But over the last 2 years, you've been ramping up the professional work, auditions and stuff.
Yep. Not only just auditions, but also in pursuing getting demo reels produced and taking courses and really getting into workshop work and getting feedback really from my peers and those who are further than me in the craft. Those have really, really helped me.
Kobold, how long have you been pursuing acting or voice acting?
Yeah, so technically, I originally started voice acting and I started making some audio role plays on YouTube, and that was about 4 years ago. I made 2 of them, and then I stopped because I hated the way I sounded, and it was really stressful. And then last year, I'd finished my degree, and I was kind of aimlessly floating for a bit. And then during a job interview, they asked me, "Hey, what would be your dream job?" And I had to sit there for 5 minutes and think. And the only real answer I could come to was voice actor, which I'd been kind of thinking about and had that stewing in the back of my mind for a while. And so after that, I took the job. But then I've also been trying to grow and pursue that for a little, maybe about 1.25 years now, and that's been. I've gone back to the YouTube channel again and trying to get that going. So
yeah, I'm a subscriber. I've seen.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Can you share that link so that people that are listening are able to look you up if you're comfortable?
I mean, yeah, sure. We're like it's just CobaltKobold on YouTube, so like it's,
Lovely.
there's no one. I don't think there's anyone. There might be, but like I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying.
We'll look for the one with the velvet voice that has had a croissant and has been awake for 3 hours.
Yeah, that is my 3 defining traits.
Velvet voice, croissant, awake for 3 hours.
Josie, can you talk about how you got into this?
So I kind of, like a lot of people, was quite aimless in life. I guess like after high school and stuff. So I got really sick in my final years of high school, so I couldn't go to uni. So it was like, oh, what do I do with my life now? So I first taught myself coding, like everyone my age does. That went pretty all right, but I always failed the social interviews. So then I was like, okay, what else have I really loved my whole life? And I always loved the behind the scenes videos for animation, like seeing those people in the booth. And I was just like, you know what? Sure, let's try voice acting. And Australia being Australia, we got a natural disaster and the government gave us some money. And I was like, I'm gonna buy a microphone.
Hooray. Disaster money well spent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. I no longer use that microphone for voice acting.
Still though.
It's the one I'm using now. But yeah. And then I was like, okay, I want to take this seriously because working in most jobs seems terrible. And voice acting doesn't seem to destroy my soul.
Oh, I relate to that so hard.
Yeah, relatable.
Sorry,
also, reading out ads is very fun to me.
Excellent. Melissa, what about you?
I've simultaneously been acting for a long time and not very long at all. I started when I was a kid, grew up in Southern California, had an agent for a little bit, like did community theater and stuff. Yeah, and then, but it was just too much driving, not really like doable for my parents. So I took a long break. Sorry, what?
Oh, I said that sounds familiar. A lot of driving.
We are in Southern California.
We're in Southern California too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it just, So I took a long break. So I'd always kind of been torn between doing acting and music, studied music. Yeah, was an oboe performance major, went out into the world, took my first orchestra audition, decided I hated it and was never going to do that again. And then was freelancing. But just, I always had that little nagging doubt, like, I think maybe I liked acting better and like play video games and hear the voice acting and just, I kept on being like, I want to do that. So I finally just made the leap.
How cool. I with this question, I was thinking about it. I was like, if I had to answer this question, would I talk about the theater that I did as a kid or where does it start? And I think a lot of it is, how we perceive it.
The trajectory is just weird though.
Yeah. A little bit about the game, mistershins.
Uh-oh.
This was your first jam. And just full disclosure to everybody, mistershins is my wife. So
that's why we're sharing a mic.
We're sharing the mic, and but this is the first time that I have. Oh no, is it second actually?
You talked to me for Tell It Slant.
We did talk for Tell It Slant. So this is gonna be a no holds barred, pull no punches interview.
He's gonna go after
you. This was your first game jam.
Yep.
And I wanted to know what made you decide to do it. And
excessive confidence.
The end. And why did you land on Spooktober of all the jams that you could have done?
Well,
mistershins and mistershins, surely there's a connection.
Womp womp.
Nah.
So I wanted to do the jam in part because the thing that got me into game dev is the fact that I'm a writer. I just enjoy writing. That's what I want to do. I love writing. And I've always written ever since I can remember. And most of the time it's just been for my own personal enjoyment. And writing a visual novel kind of struck me as just a offhand thing to entertain myself with, and I ended up writing my big project, Bright Oak, which was initially supposed to be just this short, one-off, like, self-entertainment thing for a night, and blossomed into this huge passion project because I can't do anything by halves. But after working on Bright Oak for a long time, the script is completed. I learned what I needed to know for game dev along the way, because I had this script that only worked as a visual novel, and so it's like, oh, well, now I have to learn coding or commission coding people. I have to figure out how to do the backgrounds because I can't afford to pay somebody for backgrounds. So I have to teach myself watercolors. And I commissioned Remnantation, who did the artwork for Burdock, and I ended up having the good luck of commissioning not only Remnantation, but also John, who did the amazing music for Burdock, along with a handful of others, and had a grand old time, put out the demo, which was the first third of the story, and was just exhausted with the coding because I am not into coding. It's tiresome. It's the busy work of game dev in my mind. So I wanted a break. I wanted a break from that. I wanted to do something that was fun, that I actually enjoyed doing in game dev, to kind of get the fire going again, because I needed to do something. And so it's like, oh, a single month. That's something that I can commit to. That's not going to feel like veering too far off course from this big project that I really am committed to getting finished.
Josie says, as a former coder, I concur, coding is dreadful.
It is. I've gotten better at it over the years, but it really is. So for Burdock, it's like, oh, no, I've got all these skills that I have developed working on Bright Oak. I can do something in a month, and that'll give me an opportunity to work on just focusing writing and write this story that is entirely left field from Bright Oak. I don't know why I had this brief halcyon notion that it's like, oh, I'll just build my studio brand, because the people who play Burdock are not necessarily going to be people who like Bright Oak, or vice versa. But here we are.
I missed you during that month.
You missed me in September too, didn't you?
Yeah, and in September. That's nice to have you back. Great answer. Back to Chase.
I pay him to say that.
Back to Chase. Well, and all the actors, really. So apart from the player, none of these characters in the story are human. And I wanted to talk to you guys about how this affected the way you approach this role. As actors, we talk about, human motivations, but a lot of the motivations in this story are kind of inhuman. Did that affect how you played this part?
I think it absolutely did for me, to be playing someone whose beheading was, 100 years ago. I had to lean into definitely an older, beaten down feeling, and given the Woodsman's characterized by regret, there's a lot of heaving motions as you speak, I'm eternally sorry, and it and I think that trying to make, yourself as one-dimensional as, fairy tale characters can be, one-track minded, is a fun and sometimes very physical thing to get into.
You mentioned the heaving. So was that something, or are you doing is that a technical thing that you worked into the character?
Well, it's really just that when I was giving my lines, I was kind of shrugging my shoulders forward and hunching and moping, kind of, because you're in, magical servitude and penitence, I guess. So trying to, I don't know, it helps for me to be kind of physical and gesturing behind the microphone to,
that makes sense to
carry
me.
out certain feels.
Dylan, your voice is not as breathy as the Merrow-Man's. Was there something similar going on for you?
Very much so. It's kind of funny because when I initially saw the role, I had to do a quick Google search, and I'm like, is the Merrow-Man real, or is this something that Mistershins made up for the story? Is this fictitious? So I stumbled across the article that first, mentions the Merrow, the mermaids. Like, oh, they have their, depending on whether they're Irish, Scottish, Welsh, they have their carp coats, or like the little cap that they use to control the water. And if you lure them out of the sea, oh, they can, you got family that be your bride. Just don't make them look at the water or they'll jump straight back in or something like that. So after all, the details about the carp skin, the cap, and, being able to take the Merrow as a bride, as long as you don't look at the sea, I immediately get, you get to this section that's distinctly titled Merrow-Man, which is conversely ugly as sin and wants nothing more to do than to eat you and drown you and all that. So,
oh no!
With that in mind.
Depending on the story.
But with that really to go off, and I also hadn't seen the art either. So.
Your conception was pretty much what was on the page, and then no visuals, nothing to. Nothing from the game.
Yep.
So
exactly.
that must have had a take. Well, it's amazing how you went from that to everybody wanting you to drown them. So.
Yeah.
Lore says it's their love language.
Definitely.
Drowning is their love language.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting.
And not only just, I guess with that interpretation, there was also a tonal shift with my initial audition versus hearing feedback from mistershins and EeeCee. Like with the initial folklore in my mind, I actually had developed the voice for, I had a very much more monstrous, looming, and sinister angle to the Merrow-Man. But after hearing the writing feedback, he's honestly more there's this childlike or almost this puppy-like
just wants to show you his
innocence,
dead
but
things.
he doesn't exactly. So
He doesn't
that definitely
mean to drown you.
things.
Necessarily.
Anything technical that you incorporated into this performance? Were you Chase, shrugging or making adjustments?
Yeah, it probably wasn't as big as having my shoulders move, but as you can probably hear, it was it might have shifted slightly during the actual recording from my audition, but for at least my initial audition, I definitely not only upped the breathiness, but I also pushed my voice a lot, almost not as too deep as I could go, but a lot more normal than I, as you can hear, as I normally speak. I'm not sure what spurred me to make it go deeper, but that I kind of wanted to add the the loomingness of it, the monsteriness, but also the allure. So it was this husky, breathy kind of approach.
It sounds like you had
kind
really
of
good
Josephine,
instincts.
it was also kind of a throwaway.
What?
Mistershins, you're not allowed to make judgments right now.
It's not a judgment, it's a surprise.
Because initially, I auditioned from the Spouse to the Wisp to the Pixies. I'm oh surely if I were to be booked, it'd be one of these three. And I'm maybe I'll try and I was gonna try the Merrow-Man, and I was never expecting to be cast for him.
It's so funny to me because
never would I have imagined.
You were the shoe-in for that role. As soon as I heard your audition, it's oh, this is amazing.
Oh my god.
So yeah, that was one of the roles that I was kind of stuck on because I'm sure we'll get into this later, but I wrote this without ever intending it to be voiced. And so voicing it was kind of a big test for me to be oh god, what do these people sound like? So there were a few characters that I was really stuck on, and your role was one of those. And your audition was amazing. The breathy quality that you brought to it was really something that, oh wow, that's not a consideration that I had for the part, but it makes so much sense. Anyway. I will stop being disruptive for the moment.
Kobold, the fairy, the great tree.
Yeah. I don't really. It was really fun. It was really fun, and it was very different from my last visual novel project. Tell It Slant. It's because the narrator of that, the emotions they had was more of a reflection on how the player was feeling at the time.
Indeed.
At least, but the fairy is their own creature with their own wants and desires, and I feel like they're very defined by it. At least in the game, it's the whole thing is, I want this. How am I going to get it? And then being pleasantly surprised when they get more than they bargained for. And it was really fun being able to bring a lot of capriciousness, if that's the right word, and just cheekiness. He's smiling all the time, and he's I know more than you know here, and I'm taking a lot of pleasure in in that fact, and so there's a lot of like I wasn't quite as gestural, I think, as maybe the others were, but it was much more of a posture thing, to kind of raise my head up like I was being snooty and put my chest forwards and stuff like that, because it all does come through in the voice, even though you might not like recognize it consciously, but it does come through.
Absolutely. I feel like you can picture those movements, picture the posture changing.
Yeah.
Excellent. Josie.
I feel like I probably had the most human-like character, considering...
I was going to say, yeah, they were human.
Yeah, and I'd only just died. Thanks, by the way.
I'm sorry. I never said I could drive. I don't have a compass.
Details is lore.
And I think for the Vengeful Spouse, the main thing that I was trying to bring forward was that sense of gender androgyny, because like the player character's gender isn't defined, neither's the spouse. So it was very much just how do I nestle my voice in that very fine line? Because, I didn't want to go down here for it, because that's way too masculine. And the way I usually
That just really
speak
surprised me just now. I was like, who is talking? Looking around.
And the way I usually speak is rather feminine. So I was just kind of trying to nestle that border. I think also after the audition, I ended up playing my section of the game, and it was just I'm a fairy racist.
Oh, wow.
Pretty succinct, actually. Yeah.
Yes. So when I ended up coming back to actually do the role, it was just, I'm a rich, racist prick. And that's where I'm going with it.
Wonderful. I mean, that's great. I mean, it's obviously not, you know what I mean.
I'm blessed that my voice was able to provide that.
Oh, that's wonderful. Melissa, what about you?
Oh gosh. I think for the Pixies, what was hard was they just have so much fun tricking people into dying. So I was
we found that out, didn't we?
Yeah, what I was like, well, maybe I'll play them kind of like a cat. They love to play with their food and they look adorable doing it. So I just drew some inspiration from that. And then I think I kind of tried to get like the playfulness or like sing-songiness of doing a kid's voice without it sounding like a kid. Because I think we talked about that a little bit right before we recorded. Yeah. So, yeah, I think just kind of went along with those lines and played around with it.
One of the things that that I was kind of impressed by, and I wanted to ask, especially Josie and Melissa, you guys had characters that had effects layered on top of the voices, and I assume that you knew going forward that you knew that there was going to be effects added. But did that add to? Did you have to consider that during your performance? Did it change or impact your reading?
So for me, it was I always tend to speak with fairly decent diction, but it was just trying to be more aware of that so that my voice could still come through after the effects were layered.
Oh, okay. You're just making sure that you're heard.
Yeah.
Well,
your
there was a
performances
clarity. That was actually one of the things that was a consideration when we were casting the roles, was the voice actors who performed it with a clarity in their diction. It's like, oh, this is going to read and it's going to still have emotional weight. It's not just going to have the technical consideration of being understandable from a enunciation standpoint, but it's also going to still be able to carry the emotional heft that it needs to and the meaning that it has to.
That's really interesting.
So that was a major consideration when we were casting both Josie and Melissa.
Melissa,
just as a sidebar.
Was that something that did that affect you too? Were you kind of conscious of that as you performed?
Yeah, I think if that hadn't been the case, my instinct definitely would have been to do the lines faster, because Pixies, small, very upbeat. So I kind of had to consciously slow down a little bit, but still keep that kind of energy behind it.
Sounds difficult.
And also, yeah, and also watch out for the diction.
Very, very interesting. I'll go back to Chase here. Chase, did you find any of your scenes or moments that were particularly challenging?
Well, I think introducing the Woodsman was something certainly that was on my mind more than other scenes, because obviously first impressions matter with characters too, and I, in the end, and this is thanks, in great part, obviously, to EeeCee, who was a wonderful voice director, but, we wanted to go for a kind of theatrical, almost as if the character and the voice is melting in the presence of the dear woman, and just getting that down, getting how we wanted the character to first come across, I think was something that I and he paid attention to, and I'm reasonably satisfied with it. It was fun to do too. It was a genuinely entertaining read.
Excellent. Is there a moment that you're most proud of, either a scene or just a line or anything?
I liked the remark about not wanting to lose his head again. That was fun to deliver,
too.
I think. That would seem inconvenient.
Absolutely. Dylan, what about you? Is there was there any scene that was challenging or moment?
The most that I can recall is actually the line in the drowning route where he's talking about, the shining stones, ancient bones, all that. That particular line was seared into my brain because I practiced and rehearsed that for the audition so many times, and then I had to do it for the callback. So I was kind of stuck in this, I guess, in the different ways that I'd interpreted it. But thankfully, EeeCee was able to help me break it down and find something I think that was able to make a better performance.
It's nice to have a director.
In case you have anybody.
Oh, go on.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say it was nice to have a director that can eat you out.
Exactly. Yeah. If there are any budding directors in the chat right now, the more hyper-specific you get with your line direction, the better your actors can fulfill what you're looking for. I promise you that works every time.
Dylan, is there also a moment that you're most proud of, or a scene, or?
There is one. It's less on maybe on the technical side of things, but there was one scene that you didn't get to because of the ring.
Oh, darn it. Oh, it was behind the. But, if you.
Oh no! The most awful timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Something
and for that
really
scene,
bad.
That was the fastest scene for that entire session. It was my fastest recording part of the session, and I was able to nail everything in just one go. I was like, yeah. I got it.
Nice. That is a good feeling. Cobalt, what about you? Anything that was difficult, and anything that you're particularly proud of?
It's kind of weird because it went from a lot of lines in a very short span of time. With Tell It Slant, there was a lot of stuff that needed doing, so the recording sessions were quite intense, just in the sense of like having to re-record things a lot just to get the exact tone or like pacing right. And then when I started recording for the Fairy, first off there wasn't really the time pressure. Also it kind of just gave me a little more chance to play a bit, which was really fun, and it's something I'm still learning to do, and I'm sure EeeCee will say there was some interesting choices made that didn't make it into the game.
Interesting is always a good way to have your choices described.
Yeah. Willingness to make interesting choices is the mark of a good actor. I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say that.
And honestly, I just remember the actual recording session going swimmingly, because it was just a case of record the line. Okay, those are great. Next set. Okay, those were great, and there was very little. EeeCee did, steer me right in some directions, but a lot of it was just like it came quite natural. I think this character was a little more in my wheelhouse.
Very nice.
I don't know if I can't fully remember like any specific scene that I would be particularly proud of. But I really did like just like the very final one where he gets in close and whispers, "Oh, this is my name."
Mm-hmm.
That one was really really good to do.
Hey.
Very nice.
Hey.
Josie, what about you? Anything that was difficult? Anything you're proud of? Particularly proud of?
I find that for quite a few of the lines, I had to do multiple different versions of them for the different names that the great tree or the fairy would have.
Oh.
And it would be trying to keep the performance similar enough whilst not just playing a record with a name switch.
Oh, I see, because you have all these options to call the fairy when you first meet him.
And for what it's worth, that was a unique problem for Josie, because none of the other characters will refer to the fairy as any title other than what they want to call them. They call them the other one or similar. So Josie is the only one who had to re-record the same line, like,
oh, that's rough.
And is it like 5 different ways with all of the different things you can call the fairy?
I think it was only one line that did that, and then another one, it was just the fairy, the great one. I recorded all of those separately, and then it was just the block of text after that. And there was one other line, I think it was the one where it was like, "And please let me have a proper burial," something like that. Where I was initially approaching that line with a lot more anger on behalf of the character. And I was told to actually try to make it more sincere, like make it that last bit of actual love that this spouse would have had for their partner.
Oh, and, that's interesting.
Like great voice direction. Like I would never have considered that. And it was difficult trying to, I guess, tread that line between I hate you and I love you.
Wow. It sounds like EeeCee really pulled his weight in terms of the voice direction. Melissa, what about you? Something you're particularly proud of and something that was difficult?
Well, the difficult thing, I think before we recorded, going into the recording, I was really worried about the laugh because it's a pixie and the laugh's described as sleigh bells. And I was...
How do I laugh like sleigh bells?
Yeah, I walked around for like a week, I think, just randomly laughing like a pixie. So I could get it in my system because I knew, okay, when I get into the recording, I'm going to be so nervous that I need to like know what I'm doing. So yeah, I'm sure I probably got some stares while I was like in the car just laughing like a pixie.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
And then proud of, I guess, also have to shout out EeeCee. I think there was this one line where I don't remember exactly how it goes, but it's like talking about how the time is short and the path is long. And he just suggested, what if you do it like and match the pacing to what you're talking about? And then so the short you say a little faster and the long you say a little slower, and it just came out and it sounded so good. And yeah, I was really happy with that one.
Josie says doing different laughs is so hard, like making them sound convincing is my bane.
Yeah, that hence the walking around for a week just everywhere laughing like a pixie. And then it took about a week or 2 to go away too.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Yeah. I catch myself like doing it like, nope, that's not mine.
Wow. Mistershins.
Oh no.
Oh no. What about you? What was the biggest challenge in writing this narrative? What about and directing? What challenges did you face? And is there anything about the project that you're most proud of?
Writing and directing were 2 very different challenges for me. For the writing, it was partially because one of the big things that I was experimenting with is the fact that I am not somebody who writes naturally from an outline. I am somebody who's just like, oh, I have this vague idea for a premise. There are some people who might show up. I'm going to write and see who really does show up, and we're going to find out what's going to happen from there. And that isn't a method that works for a project when you're having to write it during the process. So this was honestly probably my first ever time writing from an outline. I had to come up with the outline for Burdock beforehand, and it was something that it's like, oh, I need to find out whether I can actually do this thing if I'm going to be writing it. And it was kind of one of my first steps towards working with other people as opposed to being in my little wizard's tower doing my own thing and making things explode. So that was the big challenge with writing, was like writing an actual outline and being like, no, these are the things that are going to happen.
Can't just let it be
I can't just
loose.
like go like and finding places where I could give myself enough play to fulfill my own creative process, but also like have enough structure that other people could count on me to fill this out and not just come to them at the end and be like, well, the characters said that we're telling this completely unrelated story that which had been kind of my previous thing. As far as directing went, a lot of it was just kind of readjusting what my expectations were from commissioning artists and paying people for their work and feeling like, it's like, okay, this transaction is an agreement that says I am able to say, this is the vision that we're following, this is the story that we're creating together, these are the things that I want adjusted. And then working where everybody is doing it gratis. And it's like, oh, okay, well, I want everybody to feel like they have a voice, but that was something that I learned fairly early on, not early enough. You have to communicate every step of the process. You have to be very explicit in saying, okay, these are the responsibilities that I need you to fulfill. Are you able to do them? What responsibilities do you need me to fulfill in return? Like, what is the exchange? Because there's always some kind of exchange there, and it has to be agreed beforehand. You can't just say, do what you want to do, because then you end up with inter-development conflict, as I honestly did, because there were people who both had overlapping roles, and I had no idea that that was happening. And so as a result, I did a very poor job of mediating it. So it was a major learning experience for me. Just like trying to figure out how to navigate the management of multiple talents and balance that with the respect I had for everybody's willingness to participate and put in their own heart and soul to this project without pay. As far as what I am proudest of on the project, that would probably just be the organization. Because I'd been working on Burdock for so long, I knew exactly what I needed to do, and I have a very clear vision what I wanted the game to form. And so we actually finished it several days early.
Oh, that's amazing.
There was no massive crunch at the end. Like, I was able to figure out like what roles I needed filled, like when something wasn't working, and I was able to,
I think I do remember,
kind of like make sure that all of the pieces were in place and everybody had what they needed. There were hiccups with the communication, but
I think I remember you expecting you to still be working on it, and you're like, "Oh no, we turned it in." And I was like,
no. By the time it was turned in, it's like I never want to look at this thing again.
So we're kind of coming up. We're about 4 hours into the stream here, so I probably need to kind of wind things down. But I really wanted to know from the actors what we can see you in or hear you in coming up. Or you guys have anybody have any projects coming up? Go ahead and chime in. Anybody do anything they want to tell us about, or any aspirations that you might have going forward? What are you doing next? I'll start with Chase. Chase, there we go.
I can't say that I have very much at the moment that isn't commercial work, and it would, I think, be a bit improper to link you to, like, a 30-second Ego ad or something. But I will I will keep you updated in time.
Chase, if you're in an Ego ad, I do want to hear it.
Please post it. Please.
Very well. Well, it's only a callback right now, but I'll let you know.
Okay, I'll keep my fingers crossed for you. Excellent. Dylan?
Unfortunately, Burdock's been the only biggest thing on my books right now. But I do have a goal for this year. I do want to get all my ducks in a row, get my website fixed. And I'm going to start submitting to agencies this year. So hopefully something good will come from that.
Wonderful. I fingers crossed for you as well. CobaltKobold?
Yeah, so if it audio role plays on the old, I've mentioned it before, it's just CobaltKobold. I'm hoping to release an unhinged rant for 40 minutes about Dark Souls.
Oh wow, okay.
We do like unhinged rants around here.
Under the guise of a role play. But and also I'm in one of the couple of jam entries for the, I can't remember what it's called for the life of me. They abbreviate it to SWAC.
Sealed with a kiss.
Thank you. Yeah. Project Blue Topaz.
Oh yay.
So keep an eye out for that. And other than that,
Well, all of you keep me posted if you're open to stuff, because I have things.
Widdershins is constantly walking around the house casting people and things without their knowledge.
Maybe.
Josie, what about you?
Nothing concrete at the moment. I think I've become a full-time voice actor not by choice. People understand the reading between the lines there.
Yes, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying.
Congratulations with a question mark.
Yes. So I think this year it's gonna be a lot of going to like audiobook companies, and like voice talent places in Australia, being like, please, 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 please. And I get cast in like things my friends make because they're more on the writing side, and I'm the one who goes, oh yes, I do silly voices. Please cast me in it.
This is why I married a writer.
Is that no?
See, I can't put that in a dating profile though.
I see your point.
I failed to see the point.
Please, looking for a writer to cast me in things. Thank you.
Writers are an easy bunch, if I can speak for us as a monolith.
I don't know if you get to do that, but for the purposes of this interview, sure.
Yes, I can.
Sorry, Dylan. What did you say, Dylan?
You're saying I can't say that.
I can't say that.
You can't just say that. You can't just say that.
I can and I did.
I'm constantly telling her that she can't say stuff, and she continues to say stuff.
Trying to stifle me.
The power dynamic is...
Yeah. Nothing too concrete, but a big goal is also definitely getting into audiobooks, because I want to read people's stories.
Excellent. Melissa, what about you?
I'm in a couple audio dramas that are releasing episodes right now. One of them I'm actually in, I think, with Emily, called The Crawling World.
Awesome.
And yeah, we play scouts. We're kind of like the Merry and Pippin comic relief of the group, but the world's very sort of like Dark Souls inspired, I think.
Okay,
so it's like sci-fi, post-apocalyptic. And then the other one is called Arcanado, and I play an elf who's a mercenary who deals with mythological creatures who are causing problems. Also comic relief character, but both of them kind of have maybe a little bit more going on, so they're fun.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Where can these be seen or heard?
Oh, I think they are both on YouTube and Spotify, and then I believe The Crawling World's also like on Apple Podcasts.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
For the YouTube video, do you mind if I link those? Would that be okay?
Yeah, I could grab a link for them really quick. If you want.
Okay, awesome. I'll if you DM it to me, I'll make sure it's at least on the description, in the description of the video of this interview.
Yeah, I'll pull this up.
Okay. Well, everybody, we kind of ran out of time. Chase Via, CobaltKobold, Josephine Barger, Melissa Carrington, and Dylan Keeler, and Widdershins. Thank you so much for sharing your work with us and coming to talk with us about it. I hope we get to talk to you again sometime. I think we're going to go ahead and end it here, and we'll hopefully see you on the next one. We're going to go ahead and raid out. Appreciate you all. I hope you have a good night. Is there anything? I guess one last thing. It is getting late, but is there anything that we didn't cover here that you guys want to? One thing that maybe you'd like to part with?
Just thank you for having us. I think on my case, it's always a pleasure. You're an excellent interviewer, Mr. Shins.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate the compliment. I will take it. It's been a pleasure having you. I really hope that we get to see all of you again. Thank you, Chase. I appreciate that.
I guess one small thing is, if you want to try to get into voice acting, just do it.
Very good. Yeah.
Yeah, you've listened to all of us. None of us think we're any good at it, but somehow we got cast.
Which is maddening to me, because you're all amazing.
So just go for it.
Dylan?
Nothing that folks already haven't said already, but I'm really glad to be here. And honestly, y'all are great. Windchimes is a fantastic writer. I honestly wish EeeCee could have been here, because I'm so much of his input.
We're going to get him. We're going to get him here soon.
I tried.
Director.
It's so late for him, though.
But I was glad to make it, and I've never been prouder to burn the midnight oil. So
excellent. Thank you for being here, Dylan. It's been a pleasure.
Because it's 5:11.
Oh my stars and garters.
Kobold?
Yeah, just thank you for having us all. Everyone's very cool and professional and very good at what they do. And stay hydrated.
Stay hydrated.
Do you hear that, Shins? I'm professional.
Yeah, you are professional. You're right.
Professional.
Melissa?
Yeah, I think just pretty much what everyone said. Thanks for having all of us. I think it's cool getting to hear everyone. They all sounded amazing. I'm just really glad I got to be a part of this.
We're so glad. We're so glad that to get to play the game, and thank you guys again for sharing with our community. I'm going to go ahead and hang up now. Thank you all. Have a good night or morning wherever you are, and we'll go ahead and raid out.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. May we all start the morning with a croissant.
Good night.
Good night. God, I wish.